is in New York City. So we've been on that street a long time, and it was a granary, and there was a barn there, of course. And my parents went to live in the granary when they retired, and my father had the barn taken down because it was falling down. But we have this barn foundation, and my husband built a nice little accessory building to fit in there, which would be a good garden shed kind of studio spot. And we applied to put that there and went through the HPC and then zoning, planning, building, et cetera, and got an okay. And COVID came along and stopped everything. So I'm reapplying to have this little accessory building be put in the old barn foundation. And the only thing that's different from the original application is we're not going to have a concrete floor. Daniel will describe how he's going to do the floor, use the ground there.
Well, actually, we originally said we'd have it on piers, and then someone who was going to help us with it said, no, you should put it on a concrete slab. And we decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put it on concrete piers. And then also, as Valerie has noted, during the time I was working on it, I decided to put in one more window, transom window, but it's the same design as the other windows, the other transom windows. So I think that's pretty much the only group of changes.
Well, just so that the new members know, when we submitted this, we were asked to put the same kind of shingles on the roof that have been put on the Gene Hasbrook house, which is right next door. So we bought those shingles. When Renzo ordered them, we got the same shingles, and Daniel has put it on now, except there are a few shingles missing, so we still have to get some more shingles. There it is. There's the little building. So you can see what that looks like. So we're just waiting for a few more shingles.
The one other consideration is that I don't feel that the landscaping is totally, in terms of plantings, that might go near this old foundation to screen the building, perhaps from the Du Bois house and the Gene Hasbrook house. We're not sure how practical it would be to put any particular kind of shrub in there, and we would prefer to wait to confer with the historic Huguenot Street after the building is there to decide what the shrubs, what the nature of any shielding vegetation would be.
We thought that Renzo at HHS could consult very well with us. In the application before, it suggested forsythia or lilacs. And we don't want the roots of something like that to disturb the stones in the stone wall there. And the building would go in really close to the border of HHS. So it might be best for HHS to plant things on their property to shield it.
The building would not be that close. There's a required distance that we have established from the property line, but the outside of the stone foundation is only a foot or two from the property line. So we don't think we can do plantings on our side of that line, and we would need to cooperate with them if there are to be plantings. But I'm not sure plantings are practical or necessary because there's very dense growth of both trees, shrubs, and weeds on the HHS side of the line, and I'm not sure that you'd really be able to see our building from the Du Bois Fort.
Thank you for that.
I sent a picture like that. Do you want to show that picture that shows the empty barn foundation and shows where?
You know what, we've had so many technical things going on. I haven't added it to the application yet.
I can probably describe this for things.
You know what, I can forward it if you've got a way to look at it.
Well, I have a picture here. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, boy.
Can you see that?
I wish you had any idea what kind of technical world we're in right now.
But Val's going to forward it to Shane, and I can just describe, basically, there's a very old stone remnant of a stone foundation, and the rectangle of the shed fits within the partially raised stonework.
Okay.
So makes a nice combination, I think.
And I just sent it to both. Just so you got it.
Dina, I find that argument or that line of reasoning very reasonable, that putting things that are going to compromise the stonework is not a good idea. I can imagine that Huguenot Street might not want the financial burden of having to screen your building. Would you be amenable to purchasing the plants if that's the solution?
Oh, sure, that's a great idea. And in fact, we went through an old folder about all the things we've done with HPC. And when Eric Roth was head of HHS, he sent us a thank you note because right by in between the granary and 61 Huguenot Street, there were just trees there and you could see all these cars. So I suggested, and we cut down the trees and we put in a whole forsythia hedge there, which I paid for. So yes, I'm happy to pay for making things look better.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I'm not sure that's the solution in the end, but I can well imagine that an organization that, like every organization, needs to watch its bottom line wouldn't necessarily want to take on that burden. But I know you have good relationships with them, and I'm pretty sure something can be worked out.
But we thought that Renzo could advise Patrick. Patrick does a lot of mowing and landscaping for HHS. And I thought together Renzo for HHS and Patrick could think something up, because Patrick's the one who was worried about the current lilacs that are there that might be threatening the stone wall. So I thought those two people would be a good combination.
Can you visualize what does the photo?
Where is this photo taken from? From within, standing within the old barn, or just looking at the edge of the foundation?
I think it's the latter. I'm
Yeah,
not seeing the
it's
photo, so I'm not sure.
I just sent it to you. So I thought you had it. I will send it.
That is from the property itself, so looking mostly west a little bit more. I'm not sure. Dean and Dan, can you confirm that the photo that shows Patrick and the weed whacker, the camera is pointed northwest, but mostly west at that point? Is that from your own property?
The man who's in the photo, you look right behind him, that's the stone wall, that's the tallest wall, and that is parallel to Huguenot Street. Behind his back is the other wall where they suggested that we plant some things.
We are looking northeast in that photo.
Northeast, okay. Huguenot Street makes a curve right there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yes, that's not by the old church, right? The older church? Yes. And across the street?
Across the street.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
across the street and continuous. While people are looking at things, I had one suggestion. You talked about half-inch pipe securing the fence.
Oh, that's on another part of the property. It has nothing to do with this little building,
Oh, okay. So unrelated.
unrelated. What
Okay.
happened was that at my property line by the 61 Huguenot Street, my former tenant had a firewood rack there that was covered with a big tarp. And the tenant next door thought everything really looked ugly and miserable. And my tenant moved out and I said, okay, well, let's have a nice little hip high fence there and it'll define their property, which is a big lawn and dogs run around and they have a lovely terrace back there. Let's make it look nice there. So I've had my new tenant move that firewood rack, and Daryl Green, who has done lots of things on Huguenot Street and at my house, built this little hip high fence. I didn't know I needed a building permit for that. So I need your okay on that fence. And I sent Valerie a picture of the fence that he had made that would just be stuck in the ground along where that firewood. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not in position in that photo.
Right.
That just is leaning up against the house.
Yeah, we're waiting to get permission to put it in.
Waiting to get permission. Got it. The suggestion I was going to make is that you might find 1/2-inch pipe actually a little too flexible, and you might want to think about 3/4 inch. I just think there's a little more strength there. I may be wrong, but it's a very small difference between those two products.
Well, he's already made the fence.
He has. Okay, then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, right. I mean, and he described how deep are the stakes going to go in, Daniel? Do you remember that?
18 inches or
18
so.
inches.
Yeah.
And it's not very high, and nobody's going to be, there are no goats and cows going to be bumping up
Right.
against. So we could just see if it's strong enough, put it in. And
Yeah, fingers crossed
it
that it
lasts.
is. Yeah. So commissioners, do we feel like we understand the project, the revisions, where it lies? The other thing, Shannon, that might help is that's Val, could we just see if you scroll down.
Okay, 1 second. I wanted to make sure that the description that noted the changes that we've covered everything.
Oh, okay, sure.
Oh, the propane tank screening, but that was nothing required for that. It was
Right.
really okay. So where do you want to look?
Just for Shane's benefit, the image of the lot,
Of the lot.
this one here,
Okay.
that'll help you see.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so Huguenot Street is where it's really pretty inconspicuous.
Yeah, I walked by the house the other day and I saw that location, so they can't really see it from the street.
And the dotted lines, so the outline.
And I noted where the fence goes. in these two.
Yeah. So, in the
Yes.
first iteration, we judged that this didn't need to material because it's so nature of the project. So I don't think we need that. I think we should.
Yeah, and just because the only changes, it sounds like since the initial approval was the addition of that window, which matches the other approved windows, correct? So that sounds good. And the new fence, which, I mean, we didn't see an image of the existing fence, but the
There is
new
no-
fence
There
does.
wasn't.
Oh, there wasn't. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's nothing to match.
No.
Okay, well, in that case, I mean, the new fence looks nice. So I think both of those things seem good to me.
we can't hear you very well. It's very muffled what you're saying.
I'll speak. Can you hear me now?
That's much better. I didn't
Okay.
know what comments you were making.
No, I was just saying how, both of these changes seem fine and consistent with, the previous approval and what we'd like to see, in my opinion. So I think that this is good.
I will just make the comment that Daniel painted the sides of the building the same color
As requested.
as requested before, but you might notice that these windows have a little blue painted around the trim. And of course, I like the way they look, but if you object to those, we can paint them differently. The Jean House has white trim around windows.
Yeah, I think that's really your choice.
I think it looks nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve noting those changes?
If I just may say
Yeah.
something,
Of course.
I really applaud your choice of the Bresco windows, the true divided light, the old-fashioned divided light windows. I think those are a wonderful choice.
Were you signaling that you couldn't hear very well?
That's right. It's very fuzzy. We cannot understand. We can understand you, Tom, but not the other speakers.
Okay, I'll just repeat out. Camilla was praising your decision to make true divided lights as opposed to false divided lights or simulated divided lights. So just a point in favor.
Well, I'm thanking Daniel very much right now.
Well, we are too. So yeah. Colleagues, are we ready to?
Yeah.
Anyone want to move? Sure. Okay. All right. Any further discussion before we vote? All those in favor? Okay. Tina, Dan, that's decided. It'll be communicated to the building department tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
And can we just have a gentle person's bargain that you'll let us know how conversations go when the time comes, conversations about the vegetation and the screening. And we're prepared to trust that a good solution will come out.
I think that's a really good idea because Renzo, takes care of the grounds, and Patrick, who has done things for me at the granary, mows for HHS. So they know each other, and I think they will know, because Patrick's a landscape person. He knows how to plant things and where to plant them. And I'm happy to pay for something that goes on HHS property that would be good for them. And the idea was to shield a bit of the shed, the little accessory building, from Du Bois Fort. But planting things around there also shields us a bit from the wigwam, because the wigwam is kind of close.
Right. Yeah, very good. Did you know, by the way, that we approved the wigwam?
Well, I knew that it had to be a certain number of feet from my boundary, and I think it's exactly that, but that's all I knew about it.
I'm being a little bit humorous. We had to communicate up to Albany, to the Central Office for Historic Preservation, to find out if there was anything governing wigwams, because it had never come up before.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Anyway, thank you very much for your patience as we made our way through our technological challenges.
Well, thank you.
Valerie will communicate the decision to the building department. She'll copy you, and we'll look forward to hearing in due course.
And I just have to say, in case you didn't really know how amazing Valerie is, you send her something and she replies right away. It's seemingly at all times of night or day. So thank you, Valerie.
We're aware of what you're saying.
Good.
Very well.
Thank you, Dina.
Dina, thanks very much. Dan, thank you. Good luck finishing things up.
Okay, thanks a whole lot.
Okay. Great. Everyone, wonderful. So HPC 2207. Janet Selfrummer, 174.
Janet's not here yet.
Okay.
Oh, where are you? Oh, you're back here. Okay, sorry. I
I
couldn't
just
see
didn't want
you.
to interrupt. What's going on here.
Do you want to invite Janet to the
Yeah,
table
I
so
think
she's closer to the mic?
We'll come and have a seat. We're having all kinds of microphone and video challenges with this
I'm
stuff.
glad I decided not to do Zoom in.
I think we're glad too, because it's really not been that easy.
Yeah.
But welcome and thank you for coming out.
Thanks.
Um,
Put the chair down, because I do all chairs.
Valerie's going to bring up the application, which is just over your shoulder if you want to see it there, or if you've got it.
I had a copy of it.
So I'm just going to, almost for the benefit of the record, I'm just going to mention that the exterior painting has already been approved, although we really even have to approve it. You have the right to paint whatever color you want, and it looks like it's come out well to everybody's satisfaction. So that part isn't subject to discussion, but as we've communicated by email, exterior additions other than things like painting do. So what is being proposed is a total of 5 windows. Did that number actually change? Or?
What happened
happened was, the two windows are gonna share one set of shutters because they're too close to the corner to put them on both sides.
Got it.
So that's why it made it seem like it was different than.
Okay.
So there's 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 8 windows, but there will only be full set of shutters for 5 of them.
Right.
And then the other 3 windows, the 2 corner ones share a shutter on each side. And then the one in the front, the side is too close to the door to put one, so you just have one.
And that's what a.
But when I did the Photoshop, they wouldn't let me do it the way that it's actually going to be.
Okay.
Or at least I didn't know how to do it.
That's why the captions.
That's why.
Yeah, that- I remember reading that.
So instead of the 2 shutters that you already have.
This would be
On the
just
outside.
one here and then one on the other side.
Okay.
And because the corner, you can't really tell, but the corner is too close.
Too tight.
Yeah. And
And,
then this one here, this window here is too close to the door, so only one on this side.
and if you look up above on the second story, you do intend that set just on the garage roof line.
Yes,
Okay, so it's 3 across the front, 1 on the side,
yeah.
and then we have.
There's gonna be shutters on the inside too, which of the big one here on the porch. I just couldn't Photoshop it without it coming out on the pillars.
Okay.
So I just didn't do that.
I
one.
don't have that still either.
I was just thrilled that that was that timber lane that you sent me that link to. Because I was looking for something where I could change the color of the shutters and see what it looked like. And that you can do it with that. And then I thought, oh, yeah, you couldn't upload it.
So a question that we corresponded on. We mostly in trying to help, I hope you feel like it's trying to help, wanted to make sure that you're happy with the quality and the projections and the durability and the color fastness of the product that you have.
Well, since I really don't know that much about shutters and they have to be ordered, like I can't go look at them,
Mhm.
but they're from first a builder source and I'm going with the recommendation of my painter who works outdoors on many houses all year long. And he's a kind of hardworking, practical guy. So he recommended vinyl shutters that last longer. And screws, because he said that if you put like the plugins, it's harder to get them off. And he said that's actually what makes shutters look bad, is not being able to remove them and clean them and wash behind them and that kind of thing. So he recommended every 2 years taking them down, doing a power wash of the house and washing the shutters, and then he thinks that'll keep it looking good. So because I really don't know, I'm just kind of taking his word for it.
I'll just speak for myself. You know, when we heard about the intention to paint and put on shutters, my thoughts just ran to let's try to protect her from, you know, product that you might get on the internet or whatever. And you know, I've kind of made a study of this since we started
Yeah, I've been looking at
communicating.
shutters a lot.
Yeah, so have I. And you know, you see things where the louvers have fallen off
Yeah.
and, you know, clearly just inferior. But you feel like as best you can, you've got a product that's going to go the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to trust the people I'm working with, first builder source and the painter. So, I mean, we have the name of the company, of the shutter company. It's Hvac. So I don't know that company. It's #1 vinyl siding. You know, I don't know really much about that company. You guys, have you heard of that?
No, I have not. So that's. This is. Are there any existing shutters on the house?
No, no. See, they were, the house was, this kind of, pewter color with white trim.
Yeah.
And I just went to white, and then I realized there's just a lot of white there,
Yeah.
you know, and I wanted to do something to make it, I don't know. I thought of green at first, but the actual color of the house has a silverish sort of.
It's almost like a really like.
Yeah, yeah, it has like a, almost blue in some lights, it looks like blue. And so the green didn't really work with that, I didn't think. What did you think, Camilla? Did you walk by the house?
Yes, I did, yes, and I took some pictures.
Oh, good.
I guess the back really depends on the version.
Oh, yeah. But do you like black?
I suppose it depends on the color of black, because there are so many different shades.
That's
of
true,
black.
like in the timber lane, there were like 3 or 4 different shades of black.
Yes,
But in the one, for Clyden, there was only one black.
there was one other color, the pepper color, which seemed kind of. But since we can't have samples.
Well, we could pull up the timber lane site and, stick those brown shutters on it. if you want to look at them.
Just to
Oh,
try
okay.
to visualize the.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
colors
think
better,
I
but
did, I think I was trying to stay away from brown. Brownishness.
It really is your choice. I mean,
Yes.
we're only, no one particularly is good on color. Just-
Yeah.
I was only.
The one that's on there now is the blackest black in the Timberland. I actually liked the antique one better than this, but I didn't know, you know, what the color, I mean, the black from Clyden doesn't look as black as this black to me, but,
Oh, it's a
just
Photoshop
difficult
black.
to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
but, I thought I'd put this up just in case it was a conservative one.
I think it's something.
Oh, vinyl should be
Yes,
paintable.
it was.
Oh, okay.
That's
Like
right.
spray paint
Yeah,
or how?
yeah, I would probably, I mean, a professional painter like you've been using probably has a pretty good spray. Get into the louver stuff. So you do have that option, but obviously that's more,
If I don't like the way it looks, or, you know, I don't know. Yeah. I know, it's like white too, and I had to,
Yes.
but, you know, I didn't know that there were like 20 different color whites that I had.
yeah.
As well as the, whether it's gloss or black or.
So I think that's really up to you, and you do have the option of painting. It
That's good to know.
somewhat defeats the purpose of having the vinyl, which is supposed to be maintenance-free and therefore
Right,
paint-free. But
right.
you know, we're talking about.
But if I really don't like it.
So, the other question that we should talk about is the wisdom of having half shutters or half, you know, shutters on one side. It definitely introduces an element that we probably should talk about and make sure you're really comfortable with. You know, in their original purpose, shutters close the windows. And, yeah. So I personally would probably just leave the shutters on the second story, and leave the other windows alone, and that could actually save you a little bit of money.
or if it wasn't, I see. You know, like, well, the porch has the doors
Correct.
and they have the pillars. So that may not, you know, it may look all right like that.
There's a lot going on. You've got the two doors and you've got a
Yeah.
bay of, I think it's 3 or maybe even 4 windows for
Yeah.
the workers on it.
Yeah,
And in that same spirit, like any shutters you could buy would look minuscule compared to the picture of the bay of windows.
Uh-huh.
So kind of create an oddity
mhm.
there. For myself, Dan, I think that there's enough interest and things going on with the porch, the railing, the pillars, the two doors, the two asymmetrical windows that you. And then my own feeling is wrapping the shutters around on the second floor looks right because it continues that line.
Yeah,
Down in the corner, that's a tricky one. I'm not sure, but if it were my house, I would. Neither one of them is going to be a full set, is that right? Or is it
Right.
just,
well, that's right. Only the one by the bay window would be a full set. But the other ones would just be, one would have one and the other would share it.
yeah, so I'm going to just point to make sure I'm expressing myself. So in reality, this and this wouldn't be there, right?
Right,
Okay, so a shutter here, a shutter there, and then white in the middle.
right.
My instinct would be not to do it at all. Do they charge extra if
No,
you?
actually, that would save money. I think he hasn't ordered it yet.
Okay.
So I was waiting until I did this meeting. And then I could easily just take those shutters off. So that would be one, two and a half. Well, 3 sets because you can't really order one.
Right,
So that would just be 4 windows.
I think it would be 2 sets, wouldn't it? Because you'd be keeping an extra.
Well, it would be the set for here, this for the bay windows.
Oh, you intended a set there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then it would just be,
sure.
I have to get a set for that because I can't just get one.
Right.
And then it would be another set here.
So we like 3
So
sets.
3 sets. So that's fine. I think that's probably good. That's probably good.
That would, I speak only for myself, so my colleagues get a chance to give their thoughts too. What are your?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can see now that there's enough going on the first floor that doesn't really need shutters. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I completely agree. I think it's nice to just, there's some logic to where the shutters will happen on the second floor from facade.
Wrap around.
Yeah, and on that corner window too, which looks like it has the same head height and sill height, so. I'm assuming it looks like the same size window, so.
I think all of those are the same size.
Yeah.
windows, Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense, and I'm assuming that the shutters are at the width of the window, right? I mean, I don't know if the gauge size is an
I think they were
application. but-
15s,
Yeah, okay.
listed as 15s, and then
Oh, yeah, see, when I had to make a decision whether to get it for the whole trim or just for the window.
Yeah,
So I'm just doing it for the window.
okay, yeah, no, I think that's right.
Yes, yeah. As I looked around, I don't like it extending lower and higher than the windows.
Yeah, or seeing too wide or anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, yeah. I agree with Tom.
is that a comfortable
Yeah,
recommendation?
yeah,
I
I
mean,
actually like that. I hadn't even really thought of that, so that's good.
I think it's going to save you about 40%.
It'll save me money.
Yeah.
But also, I think to be a little bit simpler. It's probably good.
I think so, and, you know, the house has a lot of interest. That front porch is,
Yeah.
you know, quite unlike.
That was built on after.
Interesting.
When I first went there, we built that full time. So, yeah,
It was a good move. That happened to my house too, I'm sure.
although we built it over the septic, which had to be dug in. So we had, and it's good that my tenant knew how to fix the hole in the porch.
Well, that's good. Jen, is that a comfortable decision? So, colleagues, we would be, the motion, if there was a motion, would be to approve the 4 upper windows, which are approximately 30 inches wide by the height specified, which I forget, 52. I really think the color should be up to you. And you're right that there are blacks and there are blacks. And,
But that one, the 5 den has only one black, which doesn't look as dark to me as the one that was on the Timberlane. It looks more like the antique black, which is the one I really like better anyway. It's more like, a little bit more like the color of the sweater. But it has more of a little bit of gray.
the roof has a little bit of gray flex.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're going to be happy with something that fits that.
yeah. I did go with, try gray and blue and red and, all, and it just, none of it looked as good as just black.
Worse than, I mean, the money you're saving will buy paint and maybe a painter that can color.
Yeah, if I don't like them, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to stay on the shutters. He's already
Yeah,
overtaxed with some of the replacing some of the rotten boards on the side of the house.
I know which one. Okay, that's good. So is there a motion to approve? Okay, all those, need more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Well, you guys saved me some money and made things simpler.
It's supposed to be better.
That's good.
So Valerie communicates the decision right away to the building department, like tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
So you can with confidence order tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Great. Thanks very much.
All right, thank
Good
you.
luck wrapping up the project.
Oh, yeah.
It goes well.
Okay. The problem with projects is that you see other things that have to get done.
Yeah, it's always the case.
Take
Take care.
Take care.
Let's see. Craig Campbell, do you want to come to the
Sure.
big person's table?
I'll take the big person seat. How's everybody doing?
We're good, thank you.
I'm not sure if congratulations are in order. On a new space. Well, this is
What's
just
different is
temporary.
don't get me started.
I had to think.
We're all doing what we can do.
Hey, it is all good. It's a space.
It is a space.
Where are we going first? I think we have two things, don't we?
Did you want to talk about the church or just
Doesn't
85?
much matter. I mean, we gotta get to both of them.
Okay,
What do we have up there?
So this is 85.
so let's start with 85.
Because we don't have an
85? Okay,
application together.
So we have the sample.
you've got the sample. It's a really new product. It's a composite. Same thing, sort of like decking you see. It's not wood, it's not vinyl. It's much denser. It's cast in a way that has higher,
Argon.
yeah,
Mm.
and more real look. So forth, so on. I got the brochure on the inside. There's a comparison that shows all the benefits of this over vinyl. So I know vinyl was the dirty word. I don't even know if this is going to be even seen yet in your radar of the book, but all the gives you as a guideline. But I think it's a pretty nice product. That's why I ordered a sample, so as well as the
Yeah,
literature.
thank you for doing that.
No, well, hey, you know,
Samples.
I'm trying to find an affordable happy medium. It's just so prohibitive to take that down, clean it, remediate the lead. However they do it in the state, wherever it goes, if you can ship it to Jersey, I don't know, forgive me for that. But, you know, it's a difficult process, and by that reason, it's very expensive. And we're trying to avoid that. This seems to be a very nice product. I don't know what your feelings are about it, but that's why I'm here.
Were you able to do any comparison of, I noticed from their advertising that they sort of pitch that they're not cement board with the issues that come with that. So where are we price wise?
A little better.
Little
A
better.
little better.
cheap,
Not- It's not a quantum leap, but
little bit better.
in the scheme of things, it's a little better. I think it's a better product personally. You know, cement board is the sort of accepted alternative to lumber. I think this is going to give them a run for their money. You know, it's a familiar material only in the sense that, you know, it's composite. You know, it's from what I can research it, I guess it's really not much different in great detail to what, you know, the tracks and all those composite woods are. So, which have a very good history of being a very resilient material. I mean, you walk on that, not that you're
Yeah.
walking on, but given, you know, the nature of the exposure to the elements, in addition, you walk on tracks and composite, I suspect, I mean, they warranty this for lifetime. You know, so I mean, they're standing behind it. So I think there's enough history for this as a building material that it's going to be well received. And the fact that you save a few bucks for me and the church, obviously, you know, we've been, I think, good neighbors and respectful of where you're coming from. And, you know, I put a lot of time in trying to find something that we can afford. I keep going back to that because, you know, we don't have unlimited resources. I mean, we're comfortable, we're okay. COVID hurt a lot, you know, hiding and stuff, just really. And we want to, you know, address this issue. Obviously, we're looking to spring at this point, but again, you know, I want to put it in front of you and see where we can go. If you have any questions. Not that I can answer, but you know, the website is pretty thorough, the brochure I think is pretty thorough. And given, you know, the history of composite woods out there, I think it's, the sample I think says a lot. You know, it has a good name. To my liking. I'm not speaking for you. It's-
Work with this.
I have not, no.
Have you seen anything like this? Is new to me.
It's really, really new product.
I mean, it
Like
looks,
that, you have.
I mean, it looks like vinyl siding with,
Insulated.
yeah, with your home core backing.
Actually, it's a little better in the graining on it than a vinyl. You have those vinyl samples too, but I need those with you.
I have them. I didn't bring them.
Yeah. But yeah, understood.
And this-
Go ahead.
This is the same, like, same height, the same exposure.
Pretty much.
That's
I mean, you can overlap it slightly if we want to really tweak it, you know. Because if you remember from the pictures, if you might have them, it's not the same on all sides.
That's right.
Yeah,
That building has been, I'm gonna say, pre-preservation committee has had work done, and something has been changed, and there's an addition put on the back that doesn't match what is going on the face and sides of the original 1700s structure. So,
it looks like there's corner boards right on the outside
Yeah.
corner. So are you gonna put back corner boards? Does this product have a
I think
corner
we
board?
intend to match it as close as we can, as far as the overlap, and make it contiguous, obviously, around the sides in
Yeah.
addition to match up with the face.
I mean, you're probably gonna have to have a corner board. I don't know if this, you need to have this done
I
to
don't
something unless
know,
there's
they
like
make
a,
something, but, you know, I mean, we would probably just go to a composite material as well. Rather than wood.
And I think
I'm trying to get this down to, I don't mean to stop you with that, just want to finish right there. We're trying to get this to as maintenance free as possible.
Yeah,
Done, and if I have the fortune to say Peter can say, that was okay, right? Yeah, well, you did a good job. I don't see us blending wood on the corner boards.
Guess is that there's got to be some kind of J joint that lets in. There's a video on their website that showed window frames that were kind of made for this product. So my guess is that there's a corner board
I suspect
that
there are.
does the same
Because
thing.
the builder was trying to, he was saying something about the windows and how it's going to finish that if you get approval on this, because we're still working. Hopefully, this might be a decision that we can work with that. We'll get it through this way.
Definitely.
And obviously the samples we stay.
this is getting installed on top of the existing.
Yeah, New York State will, just like asbestos flooring, it will allow you to encapsulate it as a.
Yeah.
There'll be like a tieback or something that covers it, and then the sins of lead paint will be hidden. It's not, I suspect this kind of. I got in mind, but, you know, between the windows and all the wrapping things, it'll be thoroughly encapsulated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my own concerns are just, I mean, you had mentioned that there's different sizes for the boards, different widths. You know, I'm curious what those are. I mean, just to make sure that this is kind of falls within that realm. I mean, I'm sure it does, but it would be good to know. And then the other thing is just how, yeah, like how the windows surround, like how those details are going to get negotiated with the siding, which is now going to be.
I know he mentioned he wanted to know if I'm going to see before he gets to the windows. The windows have been ordered, but
Yeah.
you know, the installer, the way they wrap it, I don't know how they finish that out based on what the siding is, because it's different thicknesses of the cement board. Or if you're using existing, or if you're going over with new wood,
Yeah.
which will dictate how he finishes off the windows. So, I told him I'm going before you, but I have no, I can't answer.
Yeah, I think that would probably take a, closer look.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done site visits, we've talked on site a couple of times,
Yeah.
but I've never gone there with a tape measure to see what we're really talking about.
Pretty close. You do a tremendous inconvenience to pick it up.
Be 150 feet away. This seems to me a better product, but I'm still seeing two things that worry me. It's basically vinyl. I mean, it's composite in the sense that they're two.
It's not.
So what's in that cladding that makes it not vinyl?
Well, it's supposedly harder. I mean, I'm going to refer to the brochure. It does a direct comparison to vinyl siding on the inside, if you notice. They hold themselves up to vinyl siding as a far superior product. It's ability to have a better texture, more real-like.
Okay. Still have a vinyl feel. The other thing.
Well, I don't expect a lot of people will probably wouldn't put their hands on the bit, but I could do that.
Well, no, it is, I mean, truthfully, that has more mass than vinyl that I was.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
And it has the additional benefit of being insulated, which we like. You know.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not a small thing. And that's also when you think about tieback.
Yeah.
How that tieback relates to the eventual trim, is going to create or eliminate cold spots or drafts, right?
I don't think the R factor is tremendous on that, but I know there's zero on that now.
Two things for me, and then I'll pass this back. When, so in the guidelines that we follow, which actually are at state, the National Secretary of Interior, the recommendation is really strong not to introduce false grains to a product. So a product like this that wants to be wood is actually less wood than the wood that's on there, which was planed down. So it kind of lost its graininess. Yeah,
Good question.
the brochure isn't showing that,
No.
but who knows?
I don't know.
And I guess my other question is, can we push you to look, what's on there now is mostly novelty siding, which is straight up, has a little notch, and then you do that again. And in the spirit of trying
It
to.
is on the old part, not on the new part, but yeah.
Correct. Yeah, the old part is novelty board. And I would really like to stick with that option, or just, explore it more deeply
Happy to do it.
before we throw in the.
Yeah, I only got this letter.
I mean, I definitely find that a step ahead compared to what we looked at last time. And Shane, I think the reveal is about the same. This is an 8-inch reveal. I think that's about, it might be 6 or 6.5. But I don't want to make more work for you, but the thing I'd really like to see is wood up there. And I understand the lead paint issue is just a terrible headache to you guys. It's a terrible thing. So I hope trying to be sensitive to that. But we've got, these directives about what we do with a highly historic house in a highly historic district. And we have to go to public hearings. So, we don't want to just lead you down this path that then explodes when the neighbors come out and say, no way. So that's my bit.
Yeah, I think, but I would think it would be a shame to lose the profile, like introduce a totally new profile for the board. So you're saying for the novelty boards, I'm actually not familiar with that term. There's like a bevel in between each board.
I know it by that name. You must know it by another name.
Is it like a shiplap almost?
It's similar to
Yeah,
shiplap,
yeah.
very
It has like a
similar,
more
but
pronounced
slightly different, but yeah.
bevel. But this is more like flatboard. So this is pretty different. So there's that. So
There is no mention in the picture. I don't mention anything else like that. I'll just go.
and then I think the window surrounds are pretty. They're pretty simple, but they're nice. You can see the sill. Looks like there's some type of piece of trim on the top of the casing, and I think it would be a shame to lose those details. Even though they're pretty simple, I think. So I'm interested to see how we can negotiate the new siding around the existing trim. And then also, I can't really tell how the siding meets the foundation wall. It looks like there's just one kind of clean course of the siding that wraps around the bottom. And just looking at this.
When you wrap around, it literally just sets on the foundation.
Okay, so there's no, there's no like water table or any kind of like flat board on the bottom. So I guess.
It literally sets on.
Yeah. So just looking at the wall, I guess you don't really see the bottom profile of this, but since you're introducing a new size, I think I just want to make sure that the bottom of the last course more or less finds itself in the same spot, and if not, like what does that do? So that do we have to cover some of the foundation wall? Is there going to be a little bit of a reveal that has to be negotiated with? And that's basically it. I wouldn't want that to be a surprise and then some detail has to be introduced to fix it and then it looks different.
While you're talking about that, I'll be meeting with a mason probably within the next 2 weeks. I'll be trying to get one. You have to change because the foundation has a couple of areas, especially around that front door, that needs a lot of work. Is there anything I have to do with you guys on that?
If a mason is repairing what's
Just
there,
repairing, yeah.
just let us know it's happening. That's considered like for like replacement or repair. If your mason said, well, what we need to do is install cinder blocks here, we need to hear about that. That's a change.
No, I don't think that's a problem. So, I'm kind of looking at that.
I would actually really agree with Shane. What's going on there at sill level is part of this equation, and wood is a lot easier to work with if you've got unevenness down there.
Yeah.
Or if you need to build out something.
The other thing too is like when I've seen, new siding just pull right over the existing, there's lots of places where you have to flash, add flashing, whoever needed. So I'm just wondering, like, if we need to flash around all the tops of the windows or around the top of the foundation wall. I know it seems like a minor thing, the flashing, but it is an opportunity for, someone to just come on some really ugly flashing that's, gets dinked up and it's, some thin aluminum, and it actually becomes, like part of the details of the exterior of the house. So just something to consider, just make sure that that's not an afterthought and something that's just become like a really strong visual element. But, because if you have to flash around every single window, I'm not sure what the installation guidelines are, then you're going to see a lot of it, and again, like how the existing trim is going to be dealt with, or if there's going to be some kind of new surround that you had mentioned that they have.
Yeah, well, the contractor I'm using is the same guy who did the roof, and I'm trying to get everything to one person for convenience. If there's any issues, he also seems very sensitive. He's on the planning board for Highland, so I don't know if you know. So he has an understanding of what this conversation is. He's not into it. It's not foreign to him. So, and that was the other reason I'm trying to work with him. So have one person who's doing all aspects and has an understanding of, because he exists, for Highlands originally he does. So, he understands. I believe he understands. And we've had that conversation about a lot of these nuances and he seems to get it. So, but I certainly will be calling him.
Yeah.
And going over that again.
Okay.
You're a brave guy to come and face us on your own. Is there anything we can do by,
On my own, what do you?
well, inviting, presumably there's a committee that, we can explain some of this.
I've been here enough times. I'm very comfortable if you haven't understood.
No, I know. But I mean this seriously, you're kind of having to face these obstacles or potential obstacles alone. I'm happy to reach out and invite other committee members to try to explain the box that we're in here. And, just let me know if we can do it.
I think everybody here knows the box, the 800-pound elephant in the room or whatever is the lead, otherwise you'd be scraping and camping with volunteers or, which, we want to remediate the situation.
And, you're right that in, earlier times, that's exactly what did happen, probably.
Yeah.
That, there was a call and parishioners came out with scrapers.
And morally, it's not acceptable. It's going
Do you feel like next month you're ready for public hearing? I mean, I feel like I think this is going to take some time, and I think there's going to be pushback from the public.
Let's see. Let's try it. Let's get their voice into it and try to and maybe by then, some of these questions are ready to solve anyway. So I don't think it hurts to have that,
It may be a public hearing that stays open for a little longer.
and yeah, to me, this has been a 3-year project in my mind. It's not.
The roofing worked out well.
It did. It did a nice job.
And we should all be happy about that. So Val, let's go ahead and schedule public hearing, but the sooner you can, or if you're getting help from somebody on the committee, let's hope that maybe the price of the novelty board has come down. Last time we talked, we were still kind of in supply chain.
Everything was moving in the
Limbo.
right direction for us.
Yeah, I don't, it's been a while since I got my last shot.
I can visit with it again, that's a sign.
I think that it's probably worth just before you call, measure, let's go from the original part of the house, whatever that reveal is from the dip.
Right, that's what we want.
Yeah, and just ask them for that at whatever it is, 6.5.
And that becomes the component that we put on the addition as well. We use the same thing.
That's
Yeah.
right. And that's, that's a plus. We're gonna even this out.
Yeah.
So that meeting, Craig, is October 17th.
Okay.
Monday, October 17th.
Okay.
And we should probably, talk as soon
Well,
as.
you may get to talk before that. Because I get some information. I'll be asking you. Not very good for this. That's why I don't need a bunch of people behind me.
Well, this is,
You've
some
always
form
been
of
a comment,
penance
we
that
have
you have
now
to
as
do.
well. You guys do.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with scheduling the 17th. If for some reason you need to pull back, we'll get you in.
Yeah, it's easy enough to take this off.
Before we get to the HVAC, any movement on the elevator?
I can tell you because I was at church this Sunday. I grabbed John. The problem is, it's still the classic supply chain issue.
Yeah.
The doors that close before the elevator will go, we're having a great amount of problems getting them fabricated and to us. We're ready. That's all that's holding us up is the gate that closes. And you would think, what could that be? But for whatever reason, it's that was what I was told on Sunday. And I can push a little further and try to find out what if there's an ETA. I didn't take it. I just because I have, as you know, a couple other of my own projects. I've avoided being involved with that one because I invariably lose right
Yeah,
now.
you're doing
You
that.
know, so I've tried to avoid, but I know I'd be seeing you tonight, so I asked. I didn't go any further than just, it's the door. We are ready. Everything else is done.
I mean, we're that
But
close.
you can't be putting people in the elevator without a gate that closes.
Okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I thought you
Well, fingers crossed in the next month, this,
would.
ice jam.
Yeah, we need it done. Now that we're actually back in the sanctuary as of this weekend, so we're anxious to get that ramp out of there and on the front of the building and some of those other issues.
Well, I was also thinking, are you renting that van? Or did you
We're
buy?
running that. No, we-
Yeah,
no,
so
we're
every
running
month,
it.
it's
Yeah,
money
it's-
burnt.
It's
Uh,
much we don't need. And aesthetically, it's less than pleasing.
Okay. Where are we with HVAC?
We are ready to, this year, I'll give you Val. I guess can I come closer? I don't know how do you want to?
It might be better to just let them look
So
at it. and then
what you're
grab it
looking at is
afterwards.
the footprint of the building. You're going to see, this is the front of the building. This is Huguenot Street. Okay, on this side, there'll be 6 units. On this side, there'll be 2 units, and then 15 more that'll be in the back. I didn't show them so much, but the back of the church has a large concrete pad, and they just sit there. You don't see here, but on the outside of there, there's a building here that goes downstairs to the basement.
Yes.
So these won't be seen. They are tucked right in the last section of this.
Right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I recall.
And so you won't see those. They're tucked in there. These 3 and 3, there is a 3-foot well. These are about 2 foot tall, but they will be sitting on top of a 1-foot footing platform, whatever you want to call it, that the condensers set on. So they'll only come up maybe about 11 inches, I think Matt figured out. up above the well. Um,
11 inches or something.
roughly, so
Trying to
close.
find a photo of the site.
Yeah, so, so I don't know if you want us to just plant some boxwoods or what you want, I'm here to just get your recommendation. But they're not gonna be sticking up very much at all. And then, you don't see that much of that side of the building anyway. It's, it's sort of towards the end of the street. The stone houses are in front and south of it, so, but we still intend to screen it in whatever way you feel you think is appropriate. The ones in the back, I don't think we have to talk about.
I don't
The
think
two
we-
that are tucked in that building, I'm not sure architecturally what you would call that, but the part that builds over the stairwell, so you will not see them. They're tucked in. Those are like 4 8-foot sections. It's in the last one, which is actually just become sort of a garage-like structure that we have all the garden tools in, so they'll be hanging on the wall. So you won't see them unless you physically go.
Do we have like a photo of that side of the house, just
I
for
don't.
reference?
I didn't bring that.
I was,
I think you might have some early meetings or
I took a bunch of pictures showing the
there you go. But there is a well that goes down in the ground, a couple of feet, 3 feet. No, that's the Jameson house. That's one structure.
Up my street, yeah.
wasn't thinking ahead of
Does
myself.
it? That's Jameson house again. It's 85. You want to do the 92? No, that makes sense. But no, that's fine.
I remember it now.
95 is the Manchester passes residence. There's walls on both sides that allow the lights. Comes up across the ground. And once you get natural light into the basement. Those are all like. That sounds like something.
Like on the north side,
Yeah, the north side is what we're looking for.
but I definitely took photos of the south side as well. Oh, yeah, I have the south side as well. Shane, this. So on the south side, that's the parking lot side, which is much more visible. There's that. Not sure, is it?
What you call the cover.
It's a partition.
It's everything that covers the stairwell basically. On the last ones to the west side of it, it's open. If you were standing to the back of it, that's where wheelbarrows and rakes and garden stuff is kept. They want to hang in those 2 units right on the wall. Yeah, you can see that.
Did you bring cut sheets for units?
For the
For the condensers, do you have cut sheets for these?
Not tonight. I know I've given you stuff. I sent you the whole packet. They're Mitsubishi.
Mitsubishi's.
Yeah, those I think on the 2 that are contained in 15K and the other ones I think are apologies. Are 4 15Ks and I think 2 12s.
You know, Craig, I'm not sure we ever did see those. Last I remember, you were still deciding who the contractor was going to be. You were weighing.
Okay,
bids.
I have them at home. I can.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I think what we should do is probably do a site visit
Yeah.
and get really specific. If we can keep this and make a
Yeah,
copy.
you can have that.
We 3 plus our
I'll
4.
show you exactly what we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, because without skilled drawings and then photos of where these are gonna go, the spec sheets, it's kind of hard to visualize it.
And I'll drop off the valley to your house, I guess, the packet, and then I think they're all Mitsubishi.
So we'll have some dimensions.
The they're supposed to, so we see the 18Ks, but having some trouble all of a sudden like everything else. Two behind the 8 that was supposed to be for the first and the second layer. Yeah, that is, we're waiting for that. But we have so much work to do inside, and because all the line sets were going inside and running everything along the floor. So we don't have all these line sets running around the building usually. Which we talked about. But we're hoping, I think it's hoping to start next week, and all that stuff, because it is so much work.
This sounds like we're in a place where we could have public hearing on this as well.
Yeah,
That's my, I
absolutely.
mean, you've got your specs, we just don't have them here. We need to do follow-up site visit. And then we can answer that question about, what's the best screening. I think vegetation personally,
Yeah,
we can do it that way.
It's a green year round.
Yeah. The,
Very big, I don't know at the very end if we want to do a piece of wire strip or something.
that's the sort of thing. we do. Sometimes it calls more attention to things.
That's true. That's true. And they're sticking up so minimally, I don't think
I think we'll know it. We'll figure it out. This is also something that the HPC is just coming up against. This issue is coming up more and more as people are transitioning to split units.
Sure.
They got to go somewhere, and we're just trying
to
to.
give you, in all this research, I've stumbled across a company that just got hired by NYSERDA to, I think you probably are aware, we pay like 1.5% of our electric bill into a green energy committee, and then every once in a while it gets up to billions of dollars. The state holds that money, releases it to NYSERDA to spend it. And I've got a meeting Friday, a Zoom meeting, because we're getting from Central Hudson a good chunk of money, because this system with all the other stuff is upwards of $160,000. I'm not going to tell you what we're getting, but we're getting a nice chunk of change to help offset it. Still an enormous, it's over 100,000, but there's a new program, and it looks like we're fitting, because I've done some forms submitted, that NYSERDA and Central Hudson and the state of Albany wants this technology, and I'm pointing at the benefit, to be more received in the small business world. Because residentially, everybody's going that way, but small businesses like the convenient delis and they want them to start saying, hey, this technology makes sense, but everybody on fossil fuel. And we are qualifying because we're not really residential, we're not really commercial. It looks like there's another chunk of money on that day.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of money, back to the Jameson House for a minute. Are there any funds you can tap or apply for?
I've asked around. I'm actually in conversation with an organization, a group called Chosen Ones or Choose Ones. One of these people who, there's a monthly fee that is grant writing, trying to help us find that.
And they'll do the finding as well as the writing?
They do the writing, but we have to pay them so much more. So I'm working, in fact, I have a meeting tomorrow night. We can then consistently talk about where we might be able to find this money, because our mission and the kind of work we do as a green church, anything else we do, we really kind of fall into that, vision of, there should be money, for sure, but we just have somebody. Because deacons are in position for 3 years, and then it turns out it takes years to get into this stuff. But I'm trying to. This is what we do, and this is always something. Now, the problem with this situation, though, is generally it falls very closely too much to what's called maintenance. There's no grant money for maintenance. to make that very clear. So they're gonna think about the lead aspect, maybe something out
I mean, that almost sounds like that's what a good grant writer can do for you is, I don't want to say spin, but.
there. Well, that's part of it, you gotta spend
characterize
stuff, well, and he said
this
that,
project
because, you
is-
know, maintenance, they just.
Maintenance is
Ground
scraping
file,
down
ground
the
file, but there might be a way to spin it, but by the time we get to the hopefully this project is done. You're not gonna get money retroactively, unfortunately. You know, and grants generally take a recent year. I don't think this will make it across the finish line, but who knows? Public hearing might throw me to the.
Well, with that.
Having said that, I'm gonna move this meeting
Can we
forward.
keep these?
Definitely.
Okay, all right. Let's do that. Let's get you on the October agenda for both projects.
Please.
And fingers crossed, maybe we will get some good news on the elevator. But we're not holding our breaths. We know
I'm not-
you've done everything.
I guess what I can, so, you know, as much as I do that.
And we'll see if there's a time that we can get
Yeah.
together for a site visit.
Anytime. Yeah, let's do that. And I will get with that tomorrow, get the literature to her. In fact, I'll reach out to Matt and see if I can get a few brochures of which you you'd like to see. I mean, probably familiar with it. They seem to be number one and followed by 360.
If it's easier to send a, website that shows us specifically what we're talking about.
Well,
Honestly,
it's
this is-
in the proposal. I'll give you the whole packet. They're back and scan whatever is you think is appropriate. Give it to everybody who wants to see it. And if you have any questions, just come back. And I'll have the answers I've got about it. I think it's.
Okay, so we actually need.
No, for sure. I just want to make sure, there's
Could you make
some
that?
kind of understanding to the size, units and things like that.
Right, thank you very much for
Okay.
coming out. Appreciate
Free
it.
to
On a
go?
rainy night as well. Did you see the rainbow?
I didn't see
There was a
I
terrific
missed it.
double rainbow tonight.
Very nice rainbow.
One of the best I've ever seen.
I hope he took pictures.
I did.
So text them to me, please.
Thanks.
Nice to see you all. Thank you for your time. Bob. Good to see you. You all have a good night.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming
How's
out.
everybody at Foundation? Good?
Yeah.
Please, next time. You're still in there. All right, you have a good night.
Thanks.
Take care.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We started about 10 minutes late because of technological woes, and as you can see, everything takes a little longer. Are you more comfortable joining us at the table? More comfortable staying there? Yeah, I
The
think.
mic will pick you up better. You can use those, the black chairs, they're more comfortable.
Yeah. We also all have masks if you prefer that we
Oh.
mask up. Happy to do it. Thank you.
Offering you a comfy chair.
Oh, no, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. You really want to be comfortable.
I'm all right.
Here in our digs.
Where did you guys used to be?
We have a meeting room upstairs.
Oh, that.
Um,
I've been in that meeting room.
Yeah, it was nice. The elevator that serves as handicap access is kaput. Apparently, there's no budget to fix it and no will to fix it. So we're waiting for the fire department to pick up their new, beautiful new accommodations along South Hvac. And I guess eventually this gets transformed. Transition up there yet. We try to approach everything with a little sense of humor.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan. Jr.
Ryan, nice to meet you. I'm Tom.
Nice to meet you.
Jesse Hollis.
Yes, nice to meet you as well. And can you already know all of us, or have you met Shane?
Right.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
And I brought the renderings and full-size plans. 'cause
You probably get a little tired of zooming with this.
Yeah.
So nice old analog drawings.
Yeah, it just seemed easier to come in first. So what I did is I know Shane had some questions about the existing versus what we're doing and all that. So I went out today and took some pictures of the existing, just so we would have them as a reference. And so I'm just gonna sort of piece out and just so you get a sense of what's there, the roof type, it's just a simple story. And Jess might be able to explain a little bit better what it was used for back in the day, and maybe Tom knows, but the train used to come through.
Right, it was a barrel manufacturing factory where they load up the train cars and barrels.
Yeah, and before that, there was a there was a steam mill. And and I think it burnt down in 1930 or something, and then they rebuilt it on the existing foundation.
So when it became like the box factory.
I believe so. Yeah, she went to the library. And she pulled out all the old documents.
I can send you all the.
Pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what comes up, yeah,
We pulled up some maps too.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And when we went to see it on the first day, we actually thought we might be able to reuse it. And, but the smell.
Yeah, there's some smell in there, but it was also it blew in insulation.
Yeah.
So to try to strip all of that is like,
Is it foam insulation?
Foam.
Oh, yeah.
It's everywhere.
It's not blown in, it's the
It's
chemical
foam.
stuff. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
But is it full? When you type it, it's supposed to be-
How it was exposed.
Yeah, it's exposed. It was never closed. Like it was never sheetrocked.
It actually pushes through the
I'm
exterior.
about to say you can see
Yeah,
it on
see it,
on the
yeah.
south end. There's like a little pad to the rail trail. You can see it popping out.
I mean, there's some studs that are salvageable that I think we'll reuse. That's the idea. A lot of 2x6 lumber in there that is used.
It will be unlike any 2x6 you can buy. Just like that for-
So what I did was, this is an existing site plan with the proposed. The green is the existing,
Okay.
and it's about 13,000 square feet. And then our first floor footprint is about 7,500 square feet. So it gets smaller.
Mhm.
It goes up, but it does get smaller. That's like one house.
Yeah.
For a total of,
Uh,
50.
22,000 probably. It's a 3-story.
oh, that's right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And so the idea was to sort of push it back away from the street and have the parking on the street side. Since there's parking over here, and then there's a parking lot on the other side. And also so that we could be a little bit closer to the rail trail and be able to interact with that as a linear park.
That and also for safety purposes, opening up the sight line. Right now, the building is right up against the road. This is a super blind spot over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll show you post site plan. The dark blue line is their property line. As you can see, it goes out into the street and all lovely different angles and things like that. And also just for your information, there's a house adjacent to it that is also part of the property. So yeah, so what we're trying to do is you come down, and we're working with the engineer on it right now. They're working on the site plan, all that kind of thing for drainage and all those types of things. But right now on the first floor, what we do is we have, and I can show it on a bigger plan too, but basically the first floor has a meeting space, a separate meeting space, and then sort of a lobby bar
Lounge.
Lounge.
With a lounge area for the guests, small kitchen space back here. Restrooms, ground floor restrooms. This is a small retail element for the guests at the hotel. The actual check-in desk right here. And back in here, you'll see in the rendering itself, these doors open up into a patio space along the back and abut the rail trail. Back over in this side of the building, this is really right now storage, laundry facility, etc. We try to keep everything in house to serve the hotel. But operational area, that's right, meeting space, locker rooms, etc.
What do you envision for the kitchen? Is it sort of?
It will be a full functioning kitchen, but our, the reality is, I've had experience in the restaurant business before in the hotel business. We like the hotel business a lot, the restaurant business, and a lot of our business model has always been to be walkable to the village of the town and to experience the town itself and the food and beverage programs that actually exist there today. There is a hospitality element that we want to achieve at the hotel. Anyone going on vacation, recreational business, there's a place for them to commune and to relax. So we want that element, but it's not going to be a full service. We don't see it as a full service restaurant. One of the things that we have seen in our current project that we have in Woodstock is we have a lot of small businesses wanting to come up and spend time with us midweek and off season, which is really great for the business in the town, but they need a place to commune as well. And we lack that in Woodstock. So this area here is I think it's 1,200 square feet of space. Yeah, it's around 1,200 square feet of space that we would use as kind of a area to allow small businesses and groups to gather within the spaces.
So this would be like a small business corporate retreat kind of idea?
I mean, it's not geared to it, but what we see is, the hotel itself is geared towards tourism and people coming to the region and the need for a hotel. What we've noticed is having that is in the shoulder seasons where the business can stay busy is attracting small businesses to come up. We're not in the corporate retreat business. We're not in the wedding business either, but not having a space for people from 20 to 30 people to gather, have one-offs, meetings, communal areas to speak has become a problem. We find ourselves trying to source that within the community that we're in, but those other businesses that we want to partner with, they generally have their own program and things going on. So it's always, it's logistically has become a problem. So allowing ourselves to build this sort of space that can be multi-purpose and kind of flex functional space for us is important.
And that's separate from the lounge, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you look at the floor plans, you can see I was trying to break up the length of the building, like we would in any town, and sort of have an additive look to it, similar to the building that was there. The number of rooms is 26 total, 13 per floor. And it's a single, what we call a single-sided hallway. So all of the rooms are on what we call the view side or the park side. And then the hallway runs along the street side. And I'll get to that on the elevations, but that was the street side is more the side that is the more leans towards the historical shapes and window styles and things like that.
Could you speak a little bit more about actually, like how you just, yeah, I mean, if you could just develop that a little more.
Sure.
Because I'm interested in
So
the process.
Jesse will help me with some of the, in case I forget anything, but right now what we're trying to do is it's this is the front, as if you were coming down from Water Street Market.
These are great renderings, by the way.
Very
What program did you make these in?
So we, I think he used SketchUp
Yeah, sometimes we'll use a combination of programs, but
Right,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, just stuff. And then, so then, of course, the other one is looking from Pencil Hill, Plains Road area. And then we have from the back, and this is from the trail, looking sort of from the southwest end. And then this is the trail from the northwest end.
And this is the one more from the Water Street
And
Market.
this is from up on the parking lot, that watershed market. To give you a sense of scale, this area right here is where the one end of the existing building is. So it's much smaller, it's pushed back. And yeah, and the idea too is, the idea is to use the forms of historical, simple forms, but at the same time, a nod towards towards nature and the environment. And because we're in an area where it's this transition from the village, busy, down to more nature, more residential area. I actually think it's a great project for the area because it's commercial yet it's residential in a sense, and it's quiet down there. One of the things we really wanted to do is to do a solar roof garden. And so it's a combination of pollinating plants. I just thought the idea of seeing birds and bees and butterflies around along with the solar panels would be really beautiful. But
You
then,
can see that in that elevation over there.
Yeah.
And then this one too, but these aren't actual skylights, they're the solar panels.
and then the siding, we're looking at doing a real cedar, and that would naturally weather to gray. And then some dark areas with the black, that also gives a nod to the existing building, which was a dark color. Roof, and in addition to the solar roof garden, the roof is also a standing seam metal roof. Front of the building, we have double hung windows. This is actually one of just straight onto the front. Double hung windows with a mix also of the siding is a mix of different directions that helps to break it up. And then some stonework along a piece along the bottom.
Rusted,
Metal. Yeah. We have a couple of doorways, including the front door. We have where we would like to put a panel of rusted metal next to it. Just a nice warm. Can you see that?
They got
I
it
can
on
see that it's
screen.
there, but
Nice.
Like the
So
real
funny, I was
on the
having this
screen.
conversation.
I'm not
about
sure I'm getting the right
presentation.
ones.
Oh, just put it up on the screen.
And then on the side that faces the trail, that's more of our, it's different, of course, because there are balconies. It is a hotel. We're trying to have that connection between the guests and the hotel with the rail trail.
we have to work on. So end of the rail trail, I mean, the rail trail itself presumably has a shoulder.
Right, it's just where the property line is. There's no setback. I'm supposed to. Yeah.
So you need to set back how far from the property line? There's no, oh, there, interesting. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a spot, I can show you on the site plan, on the north side. It's basically on the property line. And then from there, the site itself is very interesting because it's kind of wide and then it gets narrower and narrow. So that's how I designed it, was so that the south end is very narrow. And it's not that big. It's probably only maybe 30 feet deep. It's really not big. Like, it looks big when you see it on the screen, but it's actually a really nice fit for the site. The idea is that the balconies have privacy dividers between them.
What's the material for the railing?
It's most likely gonna be 1x4 cedar.
Will say, I'm loving hearing about cedar.
It was breaking my heart when Craig was here talking about the vinyl. I was like, oh my God.
We're doing our
But the-
best. I mean, it's.
These guys are great though. They're like, yes.
I mean,
cedar. It's
listen,
exciting.
we love cedar. It's not cheap.
No, I know.
It's a, you know, it's meant to be outside.
It's a lovely product.
My
Okay,
favorite.
and stained ice.
Actually, no, I'm gonna leave it. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
there's no, if you, cedar generally rejects a lot of sealant. So rather than do anything to it, we're just gonna leave it and let it weather naturally.
And we had
And that's true of the railings as well.
Yeah, so well, the railings we have, they're being shown as black railings. You know, it's a good question. I do love the look of the black. So
Is it a money, is it a bar?
it's not a wire. It's like our railings at the hotel now. It's 1x4 cedar, but 1x4 cedar at the hotel that we currently own in Woodstock is natural, that we've let go to gray. So, you know, that is a good question. I don't know if we will, maybe that will change back to a natural cedar.
We may have had it black on here because we do have a section on the front that's black. To help break it up.
And how would that black be achieved on the front?
Marty board,
Okay.
that was
okay,
the
Got it.
the first idea.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we recently installed some hardy board on our house, and it was, you know, it's a good product.
Yeah, we've been, as you can tell, nudging over that. Yeah, I have to say, I do like the contrast of the west facing side with a railing. I don't know how easy it is to tweak, but I think it'd be a very different effect if it wasn't. a contrast. It might get something with it.
The original building we did.
We did, yeah,
Yeah.
he did
Then we
change that
changed
one.
it.
It didn't look.
Right.
He changed, which was really nice. This was all cedar. The dividers
The
between the
vertical
rooms, the vertical dividers. So he changed those to black, which really is a nice contrast.
And what's interesting too is that when you come across the flats coming into town, or when the leaves on tree, you'll never see it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So I said it again.
When you come into town from the flats with all the trees there, because we're going to take down as few trees as possible. And then of course there's trees on the other side of the rail trail. You wouldn't even see it.
Well, no, I mean, we are tree huggers in that sense, so one of our missions is to, you know, preserve as many of the trees as possible, natural habitat. And we have a number of trees that are up on the edge of the rail trail. And there's, yeah, so you see the patio here. There are trees here that kind of block the,
Right, like here's the existing, so.
right,
Right.
yeah, all those trees, you know, unless they're, you know, were trees that were gonna affect the longevity of the life of another one because they were too close together for whatever reason. You know, we'll do some trimming, I'm sure, but not take them down. We want to preserve them, we want to preserve the roots. And we work with a couple of different arborists, one that actually we've hired to come in and spade the roots with an air spade. And then he goes in and he injects fertilizer.
Yeah.
In our most recent project, one of the balconies that we had, we literally cut out a portion of the balcony to allow the tree trunk to run through it. And we did the same to our roof on the building. We would cut out the side of the roof to allow the tree to live. What we didn't do was take out a big enough portion of the roof.
Yeah.
And
You
that
cut it off.
sways. It
Right.
hits
And it hits the- yeah, so we're like, you know, we were able to get about a 9-inch radius to give it room to sway into the area of that roof, but 9 inches on a windy day is, but it still seems to be prospering. The tree's doing well.
The
You know,
roof
it's-
itself is.
well, the roof is doing okay too. I mean, in that particular case, it's a living roof too that we have on that building.
You mentioned you were looking into the drainage engineering. Everybody's aware that this is a problem area. Yeah, you got your work cut out. Think more than that it is a problem. But,
Hence the reason, you know, we love the idea of living room because it captures, you know, some of that water and holds it. The seed in the mixture that holds it, and then time releases it really. And as it exists now, there's not a lot of landscape area. It's a lot of roof and runoff and a lot of pavement. In this case, we're gonna have a lot more room for landscaping area to kind of hold that water.
On land, the Warfield Valley Land Trust.
yeah, so that would be a really good idea. Sooner rather than later, just to show some living contiguous.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, that was one of the things when we went to the planning board, I said, you know, with a linear park, you go behind a lot of not very attractive things, loading docks and parking lots and all that kind of thing. So the goal here is to really have that interaction. So, but yeah, it was interesting because not that nobody said we should go to them, but we're not aware that we have to.
I don't think you have to. I think it's just kind of goodwill. I mean, at some point,
Yeah.
there can be public comment and it's not
Absolutely.
necessarily not a well-respected local group.
Yeah.
The other thing that's on my mind is, are you aware that the area on the other side of the rail trail can be kind of notorious for people camping out and injecting themselves and all kinds of.
Yes, we are aware of that. Although I've learned that it's definitely moved downstream more so, but you know, on a few different occasions, I've seen people hanging out on that bench. That's there. I don't know what they're, you know, if they're doing it. I'm hoping they're not doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern, and yeah, we'll have cameras. We'll have what's that on it.
So just even having people there would probably be enough to have.
I think that's how do you imagine the restaurant to be? That's something planning board, I mean, that's the.
The restaurant is going to, it's not going to be a branded restaurant outside of the hotel. So it is for the use of the hotel itself, obviously. The public. They're welcome, you know, the state laws don't allow us to be a private club. But, you know, we're not going to be promoting it as an exterior restaurant.
Yeah, in fact, because the SLA requires it to be.
Yeah, SLA states that you can't not say that, you know, only hotel guests are allowed to come in. So anyone is allowed to come in, but, you know, based on our want as an operation, what we want to handle for our overall overhead in the labor department and, you know, the SLA's laws, you know, we will.
That statement.
The state liquor authority. You know, our plan is to have a small food and beverage program that's there for the guests themselves. You know, there is the conversation of, you know, maybe this is the conversation we have with the Wallkill Land Trust, is having that interaction with the rail trail itself and some sort of, you know, maybe a place to grab coffee or a cold drink as you're going through. But it won't be a full-fledged dining room area.
I mean, as it is now, we have a coffee shop, bar, lobby, and, you know, we have our regulars that come in from, you know, from town, but outside of that, it's mostly guests.
I was just thinking, on the, as you go up to Rosendale on the rail trail, there's a little cafe. And it's wildly popular these days, and you kind of need to brace for that, with the combination of Blue Pulse, which is starting and finishing point. Sure. The active patio right there at the trail. And it can be great for business, or it can be overwhelming.
I mean, I think that, you know, we go into these things with our eyes wide open. You know, we have a good operation, good people that we work with, and we'll be able to control the volume. You know, we'll create the product. You know, listen, I don't want to turn away someone walking down the rail trail that wants to come in and experience what we're providing. At the same time, you know, we are very aware that the people that are spending money to stay with us, it's for them as well. So we'll find that happening.
But we have that now. Tons of people walk into the property, they look at what's going on around, and then they walk right out and back into town. And then some people start for coffee and some people don't.
You know, the biggest hurdle with that right now, today, I mean, what it will be 3 years from now when this project is coming somewhat near completion, hopefully. You know, the labor market's a different place too, you know, that's the big thing.
It's a lot, even the time that we've probably been thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, being able to staff up and handle volume. I used to say, you know, that's a good problem to have. Now it's a problem to have.
Maybe to your advantage, there is a pretty big college campus just up the hill with short people who probably really.
Yeah.
I'm sort of getting into your business model more than we should, but it's interesting to me, and I think kind of exciting.
I like it too, because once the guests get here and they park their car, that's it. They can just walk around and they don't have to move their car, find more parking.
Or they go out for miles and miles on the rail trail, or miles on the river, or miles from the river to ridge trail. Like, there's so much to do on in nature right out the door. You really need to get back in the car.
Any thought to like a bike shed with bikes
Oh,
for
yeah.
guests?
Oh, yeah.
What do you have in mind? I'm just curious.
So, I mean, we've done this before where we provided bikes to our guests, but the thought, and actually, interestingly enough, recently I just dropped my bike off at the bike depot for them to put. I bought a new one. I had nice guys over there.
Yeah.
So we plan to, you know, I don't know if we're gonna do a program with them where they buy a bunch of bikes and they maintain our bikes, or whether they have their own bikes and they rent the bikes. And then there's also the people that are up on by the trailhead that have another bike container. We were thinking, you know, we have this storage area at the hotel. I mean, so there's been a lot of thoughts, like, do we store some of their bikes for them? And do those bikes get used by our guests? And is there a fee associated with it for us, like where we would obviously pay to maintain them, or, you know, do some kind of barter between storage when they're not, you know, to increase the size of their fleet? Maybe they store some bikes with us and we do a barter with the maintenance program. I'm not sure yet, but we've definitely been thinking about it. And then also the same guy, I think, that does that has that bike shop and provides bikes at that trailhead, also has the kayaks, right? So
You've done your homework.
yeah.
He knows more than I do. and I like it.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting out on the river.
That area, the back of on the first floor that you saw, there was a large portion of the, well, that was storage, quote unquote. So our goal to market the hotel is to the outdoors person, you know, so the idea of, I'm sure a good amount of our guests that are coming up and going to be staying with us are going to be bringing their own bikes with us. We'll have that sort of storage facility available to them as well. And the people that don't, you know, the ability to rent a bike within walking distance of the property
Yeah, almost like, it would be like a bike valet for those people, similar to like a ski valet if you're, you know, you're a skier, like skis.
So we should talk about the architecture, given that we're the design review board, but it's, you know, very interesting ideas. I will just start. The fact that you're using natural products is a huge plus for me. The fact that it's scaling the building down, at least footprint wise, is a big plus for me. I think it's a fact breaking up of that long linear space, which I think we kind of talked about. Design. So there are a lot of things that I do like about it. You know, we're also dealing with a building that an existing building that has some pretty serious historical claim in the community. So I'd like to see that respected in a way. He took it upon himself to somebody with some standing in the community is concerned about the siding, rail siding, and I wondered what you know about that. Is there actually existing?
Railroad?
Yeah.
There is an existing railroad, and
those are the questions I had.
oh, we want to preserve it. We have
Okay.
every intention of preserving it, and you know, if
Those are two rails.
there's two rails, there's actually a trail. It's a
Right
rail,
It's a
it's a
side
rail head.
Right here.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a long section of railroad track
It's
that's.
actually kind of.
Right here. It's on our plan.
Yeah, it's right.
It's existing. And this rail, you know, I mean, an idea that we did have was potentially putting an old car on it and making that like our hotel's coffee shop, so like along the rail trail.
That would take this is the property line just sort of.
You know, we had, well, two things here. At the end of this trail, it just happens to be that the property itself dives down
Oh,
deep.
Right, so you can see, you see 196 here, and you see 190 here, so it's almost a 6-foot drop to the building.
So, you know, we were thinking of, you know, this would be kind of an interesting transition of like a staircase down into the patio area. When we originally were considering the property, we sat down with, you know, some people that talked about, you know, what the thoughts were on it. And one of the things was this whole area out here is like, it's vegetation, it's not maintained, it's very straggly.
This is all tree lines here.
So, you know, we want, and it seemed that the conversation was if we had a program in place to maintain it and make it, beautify it and make it a part of our outdoor area for the public to use, that could be, you know, it would be helpful to us. It would be also just make it a little bit nicer than what it is now. Because now what it is, it becomes a dumping ground for people throwing trash over the side down into this kind of, there's like a well down here. You know.
Yeah, so to answer your question, definitely preserve the tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good historical thing that we have always had intention to preserve.
Okay, great. Good. I mean, I think about, you know, what a magnificent thing the High Line is, and it's all based on tracks, you know, and who could ever have guessed how that would become the number 2, number 3, number 5 site in New York.
So,
Yeah.
and what a great way to repurpose what was a defunct track for so, you know, track for so long and put into a place where people can exercise, enjoy.
So those are some of my initial responses. I guess I'll just add that I am really taken with the contrast. So that takes you, but that's a reaction.
On one plan because I couldn't really visualize the size of I really thought it would be just as big, and it's like, oh my God, it's going to be really overwhelming. Especially.
Now we're trying to fit it right in there and.
I mean, our plan is really to just kind of honor the land, not overdevelop.
Is the hotel stuff working now? Or is it,
Oh, yeah,
what is it called?
Woodstock Way.
Is that one?
Yeah, Woodstock Way.
Is it okay for us?
Come up and stay or come
Just
in?
look around. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, you can put it up on the website. I mean, you can give you a feeling. I mean, we're an individual building here. Woodstock Way is a larger footprint and it's 8 independent buildings on the property. But it gives you the brand's ethos, essentially.
So you said something interesting there. So the design of this building is there was some type of relation to like a brand identity.
Yeah, so we have Woodstock Way. It is our first concept that Jesse and I got involved with and what we built. And this is going to be the same feeling that we've done in Woodstock and New Paltz.
Okay.
And
Oh, there you go, with the tree. If you, yeah, look at that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can see the tree.
Building here?
Yeah, we,
No, I didn't know.
that's the type of.
Yeah.
that's the waterfall. Vertical cedar siding. And then you can see,
We used tree trunks from the existing property that we had to take down, put in support systems.
And what was the surrounding context of this hotel? I mean, it's not on top of a railroad, right? It's a very different
It was
site.
an old tannery.
yeah, I mean, it was a
Sorry,
tannery.
It was a tannery.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was an existing site of an old tannery from the late 1800s that when we purchased it, it had 6 old cabins on it. 3 of them had been condemned. And what was just really attractive was this undulating property with the waterfall and a creek going through it. And it's kind of what's
Yeah, it's really sorry. You see that wall, we rebuilt that whole stone wall.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really nice. I mean, I guess I don't want to get too off topic here because I'm trying to get a sense of the design process and where some of these forms came from. And I can see the relationship between that building and Woodstock. So
Only a little bit different.
If you go
There's a
to
gable.
property, there's another tab on the
yeah, and that's
top.
actually one of the things that I want
It's
to talk
behind
about.
the-
Okay.
So if I may, Tom.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm just gonna quickly read some of the determining factors for, that we're supposed to consider.
Go to the grounds.
For a new building. So the first thing is the general design character and appropriateness to the property of the proposed alteration or new construction. So you'll talk about some of that. The scale of the proposed alteration or new construction in relation to the property itself, which is why I'd asked for the scale drawings and the site plan certainly helpful. Surrounding properties in the neighborhood, textures, materials, and color, their relation to similar features and other properties in the neighborhood. You spoke a little bit about that. Visual compatibility with surrounding properties, including proportion of the property's front facade, portion of the original windows, other openings in the facade, the roof shape, and the rhythm of spacing of properties on the streets, including setbacks. So again, I think in certain ways, I think you're successful there. The importance of historic, architectural, or other features to the significance of the property. And this is one of the things I feel like could be a little more well developed. I think that Kim, you had spoken to like the kind of rambling nature. What was the word you used? Additive, which that's one of the things I like about the existing warehouse. And I mean, listen, the existing warehouse is falling apart. It probably doesn't meet the height requirements you're going to need for 3 floors, right? I mean, with the existing work type, you need to fit parking on the site. So it's safe to say that the existing building couldn't really be repurposed for what you guys want. I mean, as is. That being said, I feel like one of the things that I like about the existing property and even like the older properties, the older existing buildings at the Water Street Market, which, you know, got converted, and, you know, that's, in certain ways, that's a pretty similar project, was the roof lines, you know, like the gable ends and like the pitch of the roof. And I feel like with the roof lines here, there's certain things that you're doing, like there's the gable ends that kind of intersect like it's not flat, but that shallow roof. I think that's a good way to kind of bring back some of that language of the gable ends. You know, that's kind of indicative of like a warehouse. You know, I think that could be interesting to develop. You know, I'm not sure what the zoning height restriction is for the height of the building. Because it's probably safe to say that you can't get a similar pitch gable and roof and still fit in the program you want on the third floor.
Right.
Is that correct?
The bridge of the main roof is 25 feet
Okay.
and the zoning max is 35 feet.
Okay.
So, because otherwise I would have done that, and that's why I did a little bit of that along the front at least.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to try to get railings.
No, for sure.
I think originally we were thinking shed roof,
Yeah.
because we get like big windows for
Mhm.
people to look out over the farmland and onto the dumps. Nice view of the river and rail trail, but I think we took direction originally, I think it was from you. And yeah, and that's why, and then we had a conversation, and this was the direction, this is where it took us.
Right, and so because the floor plans sort of undulate, or have the additive look to them, then the roofs were able to change, even though they're shed roofs, they do change in height and location because of the way the plan goes.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was able to break it up that way. I did try to do a little bit of a gable here and there just as a nod, because I just couldn't get it to fit.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good direction. I mean,
And the
Yeah,
front
yeah,
too, with the
yeah.
living room.
yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that, because, well, first of all, you have a very well-developed design here. I think in a vacuum, I like the design. But I think just going back to the requirements that we're supposed to review this building under, it would be, I feel like there's some kind of missed opportunity, just like having more of a relationship to the fact that this was a warehouse for a railroad. I mean, you had talked about having some kind of relationship between the rail trail and the building, and we'll get to that in a second, because I'm not, I think that's interesting, and you know, I'm not sure how it's being accomplished just yet, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I think we could talk about that a little more. But I think if we're just going back to the idea of like the additive spaces, and you look at the history of the building, and Camilla can send it to you. There's different warehouses that were built at certain times, and they at one point they were connected by a shed roof. I mean, this right here, this was originally an open space that had gotten roofed in. And you could see just by like the different roof lines and the different volumes, like the kind of additive nature of the old building. And I feel like maybe because this facade is just all kind of on the same plane, and like the roof lines are more or less consistent, that it's not really reading in like the additive nature. I mean, I can see it in plan. I see it operating in plan, but in terms of just like the volume of the building.
Well, I think it's
not
subtle, but in the sense if this is looking straight down, the main space is one really long gable.
Yeah.
And then over time they added on. Look, this is flat. It was just sort of, I'm gonna say a cob job over time. It was just whatever they needed to do to get it to work. But at the same time, I don't really just want to sort of copy. what they
No,
did.
of course, and I'm not suggesting that. But I feel like in a certain sense, you're achieving what we had talked about, like the additive nature, like the kind of like sprawling nature, like the different volumes intersecting in plan. I feel like that's happening, but I guess I'm just not reading it on this facade, to be honest. And so there's that. So for the green roof, I mean, green roofs are interesting because they always look great in a rendering, and I appreciate that you didn't just put all these crazy plants on the green roof and be like, oh, it's gonna be like a forest, because obviously that's never really the case. What is like, is the pitch of this roof, this is obviously a function of like the green roof assembly, and I'm imagining there's a maximum pitch that has to be your minimum pitch. And is that how you landed on basically like the main roof?
Right,
pitch? Was like working backwards from having a green roof?
no, it was a combination, it started out with, heights.
Really?
Maximum height.
Yep.
You know, basically the zoning says, okay, first floor is 10 feet, and then the next one's, it depends, 8 or
Yeah.
9, and you're down to 8, you know, for a hotel, it's really low.
Mhm.
So the idea for the third floor was to have a cathedral ceiling with the sloped, shed roof.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and I could only get like a 3 on 12, 2 on 12,
Mhm.
something like that, and it varies, in order to meet the height.
And you're right at the height.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So, I mean,
Otherwise it would have been, if I had carte blanche to go 40 feet, I would have done it,
No,
you know,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I mean, because it's easy to
But-
say, oh, it'd be great to have like this somewhat gable roof, but given the program you want, the height restrictions, the third floor,
Yeah,
the eave heights, working backwards from all that, it's just not, it's not
Right.
feasible, right? So I guess I'd like to see these little moments that you have, like the gable roof. I think they could be developed a little more. I think it would, I guess my main hangups on, you know, making that additive look having, because I do think that that's an interesting part of the existing building, are breaking up the roof lines and the front facade a little bit more to kind of like read as different volumes and have them, you know, like, I don't know, just maybe more distinct.
When you say that, do you mean additional material to break up?
Well, because that's kind of the main way you're doing it here, right? There's the cedar, and then there's the hardy board, right? And then this is horizontal, this is vertical. And I'm just let me take a look at the plan. Like, is there a jog right here, or are those materials on the same plane?
we have a fair
Yeah. Okay.
number of
Setback.
jobs.
Yeah,
I think it's
setback.
just subtle in the rendering. I
Yeah.
mean,
You have it there, you can see
Okay.
well,
About
that's
how much is it?
probably a solid 4 feet, I would imagine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think
more.
it's
That's-
just
that's good.
subtle on the, so like, for example,
I
here,
think in this angle of the rendering, we can't really read it, but you can see it here.
yeah, I have 5 feet in one spot. 4 feet in another. And then a little bit at the ends. Yeah. 2 feet.
Okay.
And then even at the stairs, because, you know, our site gets really narrow down here, I was trying to do that down here as well. Some of the flat roofs are actually there so that if one needed, you know, we have to do all mini splits.
Yeah.
So we're
That's
trying
where
to,
the condensers are gonna go up there.
yeah, well, some of them, we're
Yeah.
gonna put some up there and then some on the ground. But if it allows us to just reduce the number that are on the ground. And at the same time, we're trying to make it look nice from Water Street Market itself.
No, for sure. And I think in lots of ways, like it's the design is successful.
There's
I
another
guess
elevation that gives some kind of depth to this side of the southern elevation.
Yeah.
You can see how it's kind of,
Yep.
The idea too is we're hoping to be able to come from the second story right out onto grade, which is right near where the trail is. So even just all that sort of, to me, is an additive look too. And the grade changes. But on the back, yeah, because of the jobs in the front, the back also the roofs tight. And technically, and I know we keep saying shed roof, but really it's almost like a salt box roof because it
Yeah.
comes up on the one side and then it comes back down a little bit. So I got some gables there.
which could
Just can't
also
see
be
'em.
typical of industrial type
Yeah.
buildings.
In our experience too with the green roofs that we have at current hotel, you know, the oldest buildings on the property are coming on 4 years now, which we have 2 living roofs on the building. And they're fantastic. We've had 0 issues with them. They're green throughout, you know, from May until mid-November. Then they go dormant, but even in their dormant state, they're really nice.
when we blow them off every year, so that leaves don't collect on them, and then the snow sits on it, and then it, you know, affects them adversely, but we've had our company that we hired to do the green roofs out once to, it's, outside of that, but, you know, they replaced a few sections, small sections.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think given the design parameters, we just kind of work backwards from, you know, there is some logic to the shape of the roof, because I guess that's one of the most striking things, is that's one of the biggest departures from what's there now, are the roof lines. So I guess just want to have a conversation of how that design was fleshed out, and maybe just some suggestions on how it can maybe be further developed potentially. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah. You got my wheels spinning already.
And then I guess
And does that variance for the next 6 feet?
no, I mean, I think yeah, I think the, you know, the way that you introduce those gables is to break up that long eve line. I think, you know, that's I think that's in the right direction. The other thing was, so I guess when you had brought up the other hotel in Woodstock, which was really nice. I mean, it looked beautiful. However, I mean, this building, I mean, hopefully, and I think it would be cool to have a little bit more well-developed relationship with the fact that, you know, the railroad is there, and there was a warehouse for the railroad, and you had spoken a little bit as to, like, you know, you wanted some kind of conversation between the building and the rail trail, and I think that's great. So if you could expand on that a little bit, but also not only like the relationship of the building and the railroad, because clearly your design doesn't just ignore the fact that the railroad is there. You know, like that's not the case. However, I don't know if there's necessarily a strong relationship right now. Not that there was with the existing building. However, the building was there as a warehouse for the railroad, so its very purpose, you know, it was tied in with the railroad. So I guess in terms of the aesthetics of the design and just kind of like the nature, we had talked about the barns and the roofs, as well as that relationship between the rail trail and the building. I feel like it could be a little bit more developed, like both of those things. I mean, but I'll give you an opportunity to speak to like how you know they communicate. But in terms of the design, and again, like I'm not suggesting that you just renovate what's there, because we know that that's not going to get you what you want, and you need space for parking and yada yada yada. But I guess I'm seeing more of a relationship with the design between the other building in Woodstock, which is again very nice and it looks great. And whereas like it's closer to that than it was, you know, a building that is clearly at one point in time, or at least the site, you know, related to the railroad, and, you know, kind of a more like industrial type of language, you know, and I feel like there could be some tweaks or some design changes to maybe strengthen that relationship.
And you think that could happen between building and its relationship to the rail trail?
Well, that's one thing. So, and I think, you know, if you could expand on that, you know, Kim, and honestly, like the idea you had of the little card on the existing track, I don't know if that can happen, but like that's really cool. Like that's a tangible way where, you know, that actually happens instead of just saying it, which is, I'm not suggesting you're doing that, but that's an example of how you could actually build that relationship.
I have another one. Maybe like I said, the inspiration of the conversation, what the railroad was, what the building was. What if we did something to the effect where we had planters that were made out of an old barrel that used to be a barrel that was made in factory back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I like that. I mean, I guess that's more like a smaller like ornamentation type scale, like ornament scale. Whereas I feel like volumetrically, you're like, again, talking about the roofs and the sprawling nature of the facade, I'd like to see more of a connection to like in that kind of sense, like a larger sense. And I don't think that would necessarily mean like a whole redesign, because I know how much work went into this, and it looks really good. I just feel like that could be a little bit more well developed. You know, just throwing it out there, or maybe I'm missing it. Maybe there was some type of a design process that had developed that I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I
grasping.
think other than you know, we kind of talked about the additive look, and I mean, it's a big barn,
Yeah,
right, which is totally different than what we're trying to do.
exactly, yeah.
And I thought about doing a big giant barn. And
Yeah,
I thought, you know, I didn't really want to just take this building down and just put another barn up. And so then we got talking about, well, you know, how do we really want to use the site? How do we want to connect it to the street and the rail trail, the street being more of the, I guess, the historical side of things, and then the rail trail being the more nature oriented
yeah,
side of things. And so right now, the way we're connecting is visually, you know, from the balconies or from the terraces, that kind of thing. We're still developing the landscaping plan part of it, but the renderings we were trying to show is that, you know, we may have wildflower gardens or just something that you can kind of meander through that,
okay.
but not necessarily have this historical aspect to it. It's more how you're going to use the land.
Yeah, and also like it's early on, like there's still plenty of time to do
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff.
And then what about memorializing it with one of those historical placards?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's maybe, I guess that's a separate conversation, but yeah, I mean, potentially, but I mean, I think, yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, I with the connection of the structure to the Walton Valley Trail, you know, one of the things that hasn't been developed yet, and I think we can, is, you know, using this kind of feel of the train tracks as it goes down into more patio section. There has to be a controlled space from entry to the point where you said the people on this rail trail, hopefully all of them are going to be enjoying. There's going to be people that are a problem as well. So we're going to have some sort of security feature there.
Okay.
But that sort of system and that sort of, let's call it a gate, let's call it a fence, that kind of lives above the depression here.
Okay.
You know, that can also be built with steel and iron and have that kind of feel of the existing train line that used to be there. And, you know, I think that can work itself way down into the property. Because the idea is for us is, you know, is there a moment when someone's walking down the rail trail and just stops here to grab a coffee or a drink and moves on? Or is it that they actually, during certain hours of the day, that gate's open and they can walk down right into the hotel because that ground floor is an open space, you know, for the community, for the guests of the hotel, that is going to be, you know, a small retail shop in there. So it can have that draw to it.
Yeah, and again, like I know when we pose these questions, you know, the answers aren't going to be there right away, but just, I think like it's so interesting that, you know, that there's that opportunity there, and, you know, it would just be, I guess, for the next meeting or as the design gets developed. I'm excited to see that. And I think what will be helpful as you develop that design is to maybe in the site plan, or maybe you have this elsewhere, to draw on like the trees and the vegetation that are actually going to remain, because then you'll get a sense of, you know, like as we look at the photo, there's this huge trees there, and I walk my dog here every morning, so I'm very familiar with this area, but there's these huge trees, and, you know, like if you put that information in the drawing, then you might get a sense of, you know, like what the natural barriers are, and you know, how to work with that space, and, you know, so just something else to
Yeah,
take a
I
look at.
definitely endorsed that. I felt like
Sure.
I could have used some markers for the major trees.
Yeah, exactly. And in the renderings, like I know it's really difficult to just like put a tree that's the right scale in rendering. So like, I mean, if there's any kind of placeholder, like as you survey them, or, you know, you have a lot survey and it shows the trees, you know, like in plan, it would be really helpful to see them. And if it's possible to just plot them in the rendering, knowing that, you know, it's not going to be the right like tree canopy size and all that, it still might be helpful just to give that context. That is a relationship that we're not seeing in the drawings of the renderings. That those trees are going to remain, because, you know, it becomes like a really kind of shaded space, and right now it's kind of leaving us more open. So it might help you develop the design. Exactly, like it looks in reality like it's pretty different. And again, and I know like these are really beautiful renderings, right? A
You're
lot of
right,
work
the
went into them.
exterior, that's not what it's going to have a different feel, because the
Yeah.
trees that are back there are big trees. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a line of very big trees, and then there's a lot of low brush
Yeah.
that is all going to get cleared out. So
And our landscape work, we have a department that we're working on.
Okay.
As well, so.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
also
cool.
talking about doing some sort of, like an arbor, how we're calling it. That,
Trestle, you know,
like a trellis kind of thing, and we might be able to do something with that with the metal or,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
something
Nice
like
idea.
that.
Yeah, for sure. And,
I don't think it needs to be huge to have that sort of connection.
no, and maybe it doesn't have to be like super literal, you know, it could just be part of the experience, you know, like moving away from the trail to the, you know, to the building, I don't know, just something to think about, but,
Is there any corrugated siding anywhere on the current structure?
No, it's just wood,
Just the garage.
Actually, I think on the one side where they filled something in right there is.
on the roof, yeah, they patched the
Oh,
whole.
just
It was just that was their patch shop.
Nothing on the side.
yeah, and they did that recently too, that roof was caved in this time last year, a part of it anyway.
All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I guess those are my comments. I mean, I feel like Kim, you know, when you look, it's really helpful to look at that overlay site plan, because you could see that the general form of the building is consistent with, you know, obviously it's different, but you could see that it's not just a completely new, you know, frame of reference for, you know, for how you develop the volumes of the building. However, I guess this is just, I don't know if it's a decision for us to make, or the public, you know, like how much do we want the building to read as, you know, something that, you know, like how much do we want to pay respects to the warehouse kind of general volumes? I mean, you know, the aesthetic is different, you know, like we're not gonna ask you to like design this building, make it look like a dilapidated warehouse, but I think you're moving in the right direction in terms of, you know, like the volume, the kind of meandering volumes that connect. And I think that it could just be like, personally, I feel like it could be developed a little more. And, you know, and I don't mean that in a bad way, just like, I think it could just be made to be like a little bit more, kind of like a lead into, you know, the things that we
More
like.
the industrial feel.
Yeah, just like lean into it a little bit more, and then maybe bring that, maybe rethink the way that the materials are broken up on the outside, because I agree with Tom and Camilla, I like cedar. I really like when it's left untreated. I feel like it looks really nice after a while. I think that's a great move.
I think the hardy board, I mean, I know this is a cost. The hardy board,
Yeah.
rather doing more of like a steel, along here, a metal
I mean,
material.
I mean,
Rather than the hardy board itself.
maybe. I
It
mean,
would give
look
it that
at what?
look.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that because I was afraid that they would say it was all wood, so we should do all wood. So.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's one of those, for me, it's one of those things that, you know, I wouldn't mind helping you think through the option.
I guess the hardy board here looks a little heavy-handed the way that it's used here.
I do see one thing here. I see like one way we can break it up is you have this type of gable, and I don't know what the pitch is on this gable, but this particular gable, right? I think you did a gable here, just to show that there was a gable on this side, but it wasn't. It was you say cantilever, proud of the siding, so it looked like it was broken up that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That could be like an 18-inch, you know, proud of the existing siding,
just what you
where it
like.
goes up,
It's like a rest of
where it
us.
goes like this, where it goes up and then comes down. That's it. It could be a standing seam roof that is on that gable, or it could even be a living room.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, I guess that's one of the other things that stood out that I haven't mentioned yet is like the profile of this. Obviously, it doesn't match anything that's here, not that it has to, but is like these kind of flares out, like is that a function of like in section of need the head height here, or is that like a decorative move?
The
Condensers are up there, right?
right, so there's a parapet,
Okay,
and
so,
so I just took the
Okay.
parapet wall, kind of brought up a little bit,
okay,
But
to
it
my
could-
maximum height. And then
yeah.
But this gable can also kind of flow down underneath here.
Well, not
Or
really,
down.
because we have equipment behind.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying
Oh,
something
visually,
like,
you mean.
it's like an architectural detail, like where it flows down. in 18 inches
Yeah.
proud of this that follows this line and kind of
And I,
mimics this.
and I can
I see
still
what you're
do it
saying.
along the front too. I mean, I have the two on the front elevation. I have the two small ones. I was trying not to make them too big because then it messes up the solar and the
For sure,
garden.
for sure, yeah.
But that's fine too. I can.
And then the other thing, so I guess I'm just not seeing why this has to be, I mean, not that there has to be a specific romantic reason or anything, but this just seems like a lot of, hardy board, like black material, and I guess volumetrically, these two parts of the building don't seem broken up enough or distinct enough to warrant that different material.
I
But-
think that's where it comes out about 4 or 5 feet though. So I think it's
Okay,
just that
so and the
angle.
other,
Yeah, the
what's
other
the
one
other
might
one?
show on the other one. That's
So-
from the north.
Okay, so are these faces more or less aligned? These ones? Let's see, where's the
One of
one? Oh, I see.
Oh.
Oh, wait, these ones right here. Kind of. Okay. Anyway, I guess, and then the material kind of wraps down here to the lower part, and I don't know, I just maybe rethinking the use of these materials and what they happen to help kind of make these different volumes more distinct, as well as like the roof lines. That's it. So.
But you're okay with me using a material like metal or something like that
I don't
you
know,
wouldn't
I
see
mean-
anywhere else?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I like hardy board more. I'm not sure. I mean,
Because I think with some of it, like carrying it over to here was more of a, back in the day, you used what you had,
Yeah,
right? So you
Yeah.
would see that sort of carried through different locations.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. I mean, I think that it's a good design, and
I can play around with the roof line.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
fine.
if it,
I don't mind doing that.
I mean, maybe again, given the design parameters, it doesn't work. But and I'm not trying to create more work for you, but it was just something that I feel like, maybe with some tweaks, it could speak to your your concept of the additive, yes, which I like. I feel like leaning into that could yield some good design changes. And then, this stone veneer, obviously, like, we won't talk a lot about it. I imagine that we'll get some physical samples eventually. I'm not sure about these brackets. Like, maybe these brackets is like, or an opportunity to make them look more industrial or something, because right now they're just.
You didn't like the brackets either.
I like the idea of tying in, like, I think it's funny, it's like, I like the industrial look. And, but it has, when you kind of look at industrial, I feel like it's a little bit more urban.
Yeah.
And I think that people get scared of urban, and specifically of what's happening now in the Hudson Valley, where you're having this influx of many urbanites coming into the area. So are we trying to design for them? That's, I think, why we did. But, being that the site itself was a commercial site and a manufacturing type setting, it plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to make it feel warmer,
Yeah.
because I thought the same thing. Oh, it's an industrial site, but but at the same time, they used wood, 'cause that's what they had back then.
Yeah.
So I kind of went with the wood warmer.
What about brackets that sort of picked up like a stave-like shape, right? This was a cooperage, barrels were made there.
Yeah.
What about something with a little curve to it? that looked like an inverted?
Yeah. And I guess even like what if there was like a thought process to having a stone veneer here. I mean, I know, like, it makes sense, it kind of grounds the building, but it's just for this one section under the overhang. Is that to just introduce new material and make this more distinct, or?
Yeah, that, and I do have it on the back as well.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's just another material too. It wasn't random, I play around with the look and all that kind of scale and
Yeah,
everything.
okay.
But it sort of creates a base.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that point that's holding it.
No, for sure. I mean, I guess is. I feel like it's more successful being used here because visually it looks like a base for these, these balconies to sit on. Whereas in here, I I mean, I don't hate it, but I'm
Right,
just.
and this side, it's
I
just right
don't
in
know.
here.
There's also a roof over this.
Yeah.
Right, the hallway, the dash line would be the hallway, and then the stone runs through here.
Okay,
And
so it's just in like that little niche,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, I'm actually seeing it from this view. You know, it makes
Around
sense.
with the pediment that was just the whole length, or is that sort of working against what we're trying to do?
What is that?
It's like, it would be a horizontal and a defined height, but just this stone.
stone.
I think I'm using the
Yeah,
right.
you know what, I was trying to avoid that, so many people do that with veneer now, that it just looks like, I'm just gonna do like, I can only afford a little knee wall height, 4 feet high, and this was a great spot to be able to sort of really fill it.
Mhm.
And also it's in the area of access to what we would call storage, but if people keep their bikes in there, or if there's some sort of retail kind of thing there, if you can just say, oh, go where the stone is. And
Yeah,
But even with the brackets, they're just, I don't even have to have brackets.
oh,
really.
they're purely decorative,
Yeah.
so just
I
kind
can
of.
do whatever I want there. So if it's, and I was trying to warm it up, make it more
Yeah.
traditional, because that's kind of what we have, and less modern, like modern is very trendy right now.
Mhm.
And at the same time, the idea is that this can be classic over time. And so maybe the black ends up being a different color down the road because black goes out of style or whatever, but the cedar will never go out of style. Whatever. And the stone never goes out of style. So, but yeah, the brackets done.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, just want to throw it out there. I mean, I think the more I look at the building, the more I like it, and I think. And,
It's
you know,
weird,
I
it grows
think
on you.
You should take the renderings
them
home with you.
No, I-
Put 'em on your fridge.
I looked at these a lot. and I
Okay,
think,
Little slideshow.
Us too.
And, I think, I,
And we didn't come here thinking that this was the end all.
no, for sure, and I'm not trying to make it difficult or, but I think you've obviously operated from this, on the schematic design level of, again, that you design a building that fits the site well in terms of like the footprint, in my opinion. And, you've obviously put effort into like, these different volumes, the additive nature, and, I think that's all very good. And I think, I think that certain things are just worth exploring and just kind of maybe developing and seeing where it can go. Because I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, it's a smaller footprint, but because we're required to have so much more of
Mhm.
other things, it's tight. Like
Yeah.
everything is, there's a reason why we did everything on
For
it.
sure.
Space was full, everything was full.
Yeah.
Mm.
And which I like, because then I can explain why I did everything, but it really came down to height restrictions. And that happened to me on another job on Ronnie's. I did end up with a little variance on that one. Just because
What about you?
it did.
Yeah.
Thanks to
That
you
was
guys,
just
because you
like-
guys said yes.
And that's a question I've been wanting to ask for a while. What do you feel like you had to give up to avoid the variance? Like when you had that conversation among yourselves?
For this?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was we just confidence, like maybe we weren't gonna get it.
I mean, but are you saying because of staying within the restriction, what are we giving up?
Yeah.
I mean,
In terms of design, I'm sort of rolling back to Shane's initial questions about, kind of small gables that might have been more defined.
I would think from my feeling is one of the things that I would like to see is the ground floor space have higher ceilings. Because it's a hotel, you're walking into an environment, we have them at 10 feet, which is fine, it's good height. But I've always been the person who walk into a space and it's a little bit grander.
Yeah.
Which is, we're gonna be doing, I've already been talking to our interior designer, that said, that ceiling, it needs to be exciting because it is going to be kind of on you a little bit, so it needs to be, I don't want it to disappear, I want it to feel like something, so that's my own personal opinion, like, if we had the additional height, I would want to see it there, I'm sure you would want to see it maybe in different areas.
No, I agree. I think when you walk in a hotel, it should feel a little special.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when I was over there taking pictures today, there's this terrible apartment complex over here.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then there's parking, it was just like, what happened with all that? And, well, ours is gonna be so beautiful. I thought, well, if we were allowed to go a little higher with the roof, we wouldn't even really notice, I don't think, because we have all the trees, all this, all goes up. Yeah. So I think even a little bit of height would have been okay. I think we probably could have gotten a variance, if we had your
Well,
blessing
that's
too.
kind of what I mean, without making any promises, I'm asking a question. We would have to talk among ourselves how we feel about that. But if you feel like you're handcuffed because you predict that you won't get a variance, maybe we should have a conversation about how you feel. I mean, it also might do something to the roof line that maybe bumps up a section where you enter the hotel that gives you 14 feet or whatever you want. I don't know if you want to play around with
Stairs on the second.
yeah,
Mm,
get
yeah.
into, let's turn the floors that are on the same plane.
Yeah.
But Kim is right. I mean, we actively advocated to the ZBA for that. They
They gave it to me because you guys.
We want to make that plain.
In the only person, so you have the dormitory housing, well, not the dormitory, the housing, it's college. The only individual, I think, that is really would have been affected by a higher building, isn't really affected by.
Teresa.
Falls.
No, but Teresa, no,
Because we've taken this part of the building down.
right, so she's
So
got,
she
she's
is,
got like a straight.
there's
line-
no one
line of sight
literally
now.
behind us that is getting a site being affected,
Yeah, she
Bye.
don't like that.
that being affected by this.
We should communicate that.
Yeah, we.
Oh, sorry, just one last thing on the roof, because, I mean, I guess part of the design, and you had mentioned it, is opening up the back, the pitch and, having more height off the back, right?
Right.
So you could still achieve, I mean, let's say we entertain, the variance is possible, and we entertain, like, going back to this, or something similar where it's like this low pitch gable, and, you could still have interventions in that larger roof, like sheds off the back, shed dormers that open up, that allow these spots to open up, and it might actually make the roof a little bit more interesting, or maybe not, but
So I mean, I have gables or, dormers. Shed
shed
dormers
dormers off the
back
back. Okay.
there, because like we said, it is sort of more like a salt box.
Uh-huh.
And so in order to get that extra height, I did do dormers back there.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I can see this
So-
one right here. Kind of.
yeah, I did one. There's 1 and 6 of them that's just pure shed the whole
Yeah.
way. But I think what I think you're saying, and I'm not 100% sure, like right now, the existing building is only basically 1 story,
Yeah.
right? So you can
exactly.
really see the gable.
Uh-huh.
And so unless I somehow do it maybe at one end, incorporate the stairs, maybe the first section, and do a big gable there and get a variance for that kind of, height to get that, what you want. The only other thing I could think of is if we got a variance to somehow do one of the other sections higher.
Mhm.
So you really got that sense of it was added on to, it was broken up and that kind of thing. Because really, they're all salt boxes in the sense they are gables, they're just not equal gables, but you don't really see them because you're on the ground.
And also like this, I mean, this is like the dominating end of the building. It kind of hides everything that's going on beyond it. And,
Yeah, so I mean, it really does, we start out here, this is our big section with the lounge and then it narrows back down with the meeting room. But we really do have a lot of jogs. They're not huge 20-foot jogs, but they're, because some of it is the hallway has to connect everything,
For
and
sure,
all that.
no, for sure.
So we do have, there is stepping back down to where, because the site gets so narrow, we do step it back.
Mhm.
So there is that sort of, I'm not gonna say subtle, but it's kind of like a subtle
Yeah,
break in the front.
no, for sure.
Um,
And I guess the way that you accomplish it and the jobs you mentioned and the way that's different from this building, and again, not that this is necessarily better or the precedent that we have to follow, but something that is different is like, these are clearly defined volumes, you know, like rectangles or squares for these separate buildings which interconnect. Whereas like if you, I don't know, like I won't, but if, you know, like this is kind of like one volume here, and then like these jogs a line, so this could be another volume with a different roof condition. But then as you get into this area, like it kind of jigs and jogs in a way that's not necessarily, you know, different volumes intersecting. And again, I'm not suggesting that you redesign it to make that happen, but maybe there's some little changes that could happen where it's like you define all these different volumes, and these jogs, you know, have more of a relationship with each other, and then maybe that relationship can be brought to the roof. Maybe, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah, they tried doing that.
Yeah.
Because I thought you were gonna say, well, maybe this section all ends up being one long gable
Uh-huh.
instead. And I get a variance so I can get my height to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, if, because really it is, our gable roofs are just really shallow.
yeah.
So the only way to do that for me, and it's probably a 6 foot. I would say, variance.
But does that help us? Like, does that improve anything in this section?
It doesn't help internally.
It's just an aesthetic.
And if it's a move to just, you know, again, it might not be worth it. I'm just trying to throw out ideas to just kind of have more of a relationship to, you know, to just the meandering identity to the building that was there. So
Yeah, because I mean, even on this one, I could do like these, but I could do a larger one, for example, or, you know,
Yeah,
played
and
around with some of that, but we were trying to keep it a little bit more, I don't know, it's so funny, industrial isn't really gable. It's just the
Yeah.
way it was built back in the day. So, and at the
that's
same
very
time,
true.
yeah, and at the same time, you're trying to fight that modern thing.
No, for sure.
And so we're trying to take all these little bits from
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, I mean, if something I'll introduce, at a certain point, nobody's gonna remember the box factory.
Yeah.
But it's always gonna sit next to Water Street Market, which has a whole other set of lines, and that's a balance.
That was the thing too, is I didn't want it to be like an addition to Water Street Market. I
Yeah,
wanted it to
Sure.
be
Yeah,
its
it's
own
all separate thing.
thing,
Of course.
yeah.
Of course.
But it's gonna be highly visible.
And that was part of the reason with the solar roof garden and that kind of thing, to have that interest when you look down.
Yeah. No, for sure. So anyway, I mean, just the closing thoughts on that, you know, I think I like these gable ends I introduced. I think maybe they could just be tied into like the different lines, and, you know, maybe the more, in a way that's more, I don't know, because like, it just, like how do you decide to put these here? They just, I mean, and you could just say like, it just felt right, it looked good.
Oh yeah, I tried different things.
Yeah, okay, cool. So maybe, you know, maybe just having like where you have the gable ends, like these little motifs, you know, like maybe there's a way to have like that rhythm, you know, where these happen, tie into like the different volumes that you're connecting. Or maybe not, but just I feel like that might lead to, you know, an improved design in a certain way. You might be excited with what you find. But yeah, anyway, I feel like I've talked a lot, but I like the design, and I feel like it's, you know, going like a really good direction, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. Those been some good ideas.
No problem.
When do you think back to the planning board?
I think we're going on October 18th.
Okay, so that's the day after our next meeting. Do you feel a need to come back to us next meeting?
I'm not sure yet.
Let's leave the door open. We'll just kind of pencil in the possibility. I think, given the open-ended nature of this conversation, it's probably best if you go last and we do the more discreet, self-evident things. So sorry. But,
No, it's okay.
I mean, it's just kind of wickedly unfair to other people who have a 10-minute thing. Yeah. But we'd happily talk again. I mean, I think Shane in particular has some really good ideas about how to just. But we will certainly send just like a memo recap to you and to the planning board. Do you want us to talk about possibility of a variance? I mean, is that opening up something that?
I don't know, maybe we just need to talk internally first.
So
Yeah,
why-
and I think that also our engineers be working on like height,
Okay,
actual heights, so that's.
For the site itself.
Right, so,
oh, right,
there's different heights on the site.
right, you're gonna be taking the median, right, as your zero.
Yeah, ultimately.
So why don't we do this? I mean, it's getting late for all of us. We will not attempt a memo until we've had a chance to talk and you've had a chance to talk. We'll just sort of keep that. We'll wait to hear from you on that.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Well, listen, I really appreciate all your
It's an exciting
time.
project.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. This meeting.
Nice meeting you all.
Thanks for
Pleasure.
being
Thank
here.
you, thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's great.
So the e-versions that you have are exactly these?
Yeah, the only difference is I took some pictures today.
Yeah, but I think we got the pictures.
I can leave them with you.
Can you send me those electronically?
Yeah.
That's great.
We'll just
That would
start
be
a
better.
file.
Yeah.
And thanks for your patience. With the delay. We try to be on time, but,
We'll get used to this.
Yeah.
We'll get used to this.
Yeah.
We got this whole thing to do, sorry.
Yeah, I
One
think
day
we
we'll
should
be
do
brand
the-
new.
Yeah, there you go.
just do the absolute.
For sure.
Everything back to October.
Have a nice night, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah,
Bye.
good evening. Bye, thanks. I'm just looking at things that must happen. Bill, do we have a 30-second update on the art show?
Yes, we had, I think, that would be,
Yeah, so.
Was that not recently?
no, it was, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could you
right.
send that?
Yes, sure.
I mean, it's going to be so buried. And you mentioned that quite a few new artists. We do need to discuss 7A.
We do.
So this to me is absolutely straightforward. Once again, we approved a project for a shed. I think it's actually new farms.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the middle section. A little over 2 years ago, and they couldn't start on time because of delays. So
Okay.
so
I think it's the end with the barn door things, because I believe we
Yeah,
have
that's-
photos with that center section already completed.
yeah, I meant
Okay.
to me that's
Oh,
the end
okay,
too,
all right.
with the
Yes.
stores.
Yes.
Yeah. Shane, these have been really good clients. I mean, they do quality work. It's never been a problem. They just.
Yeah, that was part of it, and now I think it's getting their contractor on their
contractor.
contractor schedule.
So really no fault of their own. So I would recommend that we extend it.
I agree. I mean, I think it looks great. Looks like it could have always been there.
Yeah.
Which is,
It's actually quite hidden from the street. And this is parallel to Huguenot Street, and it's 2.5 buildings deep.
and I'm assuming it's the same, they're continuing, oh yeah, we could see they're continuing the same siding and
Yeah.
everything, right? Yeah, so I mean, I think it looks great.
It's going to be just it's a really nice stone house right in the heart of Huguenot Street.
Nice.
Very careful stewards. So, motion to approve an extension.
Are we gonna go we've been doing 6 months. Do you?
Okay. What's the card? Who's got a card of these things? We did the other day. Peculiar. So let's, Camille proposed. Change that. Huguenot Street, we never got a response.
Well, I did talk to Corey and it's, I mean, they're so busy, they just haven't had a chance to look at what the code allows and doesn't, but it's on the radar. So
Oh,
It's just,
that's-
it's the use question.
Oh, that's not one.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's 181.
Oh, it is
That's-
180.
Yep.
I thought it was 181's
Jewish one.
Jewish one.
Right, so it was partly related to use because of the budget report's there.
Sorry.
I said the budget report is right
Yeah,
there.
but it's just kind of what it is. I do think that we should take. Everything is coming up to rules and updated. And you did send me the updated map for us. Today.
Oh,
Is that- oh, no, that wasn't.
You
Not
sent
I sent,
a narrative, I think.
Was the
last month, yeah, it was the narrative about the window one times.
yeah.
Things like that, so.
We'll just kick that to.
Yeah, because I don't think I can show it on the screen.
It's just, it's really big. This is impressive.
Yeah.
We'll put it next month.
Can we have a move, have a motion submitted? And we'll close the meeting. More on favor. So we just need to